start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We have a full agenda today, and that's where we're going to start. Are there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda?
I'll move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Then moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Attached, we have the minutes of the September 19th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, clarifications to those minutes?
If there are none or no objections, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as written. I don't think I can second.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those minutes. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, then let's vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, first on our agenda is Jason with.
Hi, Jace.
Morning, Jason.
Morning, Jason.
Cabin discussion. This will be interesting. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, we've been presented with a somewhat unique opportunity, I guess. I have some local people that are going to be building a new house, and they want to donate the house that's currently on their property to the Conservation Board to use as a rental cabin at Swan Lake. Now the house, with some, I'll pass these around, just some information on, and some pictures. I think there should be enough. The house, looking at about 900 square feet, so it's a small, be a perfect cabin-size house. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom. It was built in 1991 by Stan Kirkhoff here in town. And everything comes, they want to get rid of everything, the furnace, air conditioner, water heater, all that comes with it. The house had a new roof in 2009. It's got all Anderson casement windows in it, so structurally and size-wise, it would make a perfect, could be made into a perfect rental cabin. The only deal is they want to donate the house, no cost for that, so it'd just be getting it moved and set in place, the cost associated with that. So we've got to go through the pictures a little bit. The house itself, it's kind of an open kitchen dining room area, and you can see the pictures of the kitchen there. The 2 bedrooms are fairly good sized. It's nothing fancy. Like I said, it's just got the 1 bathroom. It's 1 full bath, which our current cabin does not have. So, as far as structural wise, anything, there'd be nothing to do to the house itself right away. And if we just look at the kind of the numbers on the first page there, the current cabin we have, it's just a 1 bedroom. It was the old concession stand. It's got a half bath. It's just got the shower or a toilet and a sink. There is no shower. They use the showers up in the campground. Our occupancy on that cabin runs about 60%, and that is just a seasonal cabin. It's not open through the winter because we don't have heat in it. And our rental rate, $60 a night. And then our past revenues from 2010 through 2015 are listed there, so you can kind of look at those. If we would happen, if it works out to move this house in as a second cabin, a lot of counties, they're putting up anywhere 3 to 4 cabins they have. It seems like that's somewhat of a number they can keep occupied in that range. And that's kind of one thing we don't want to do is, get too much where you can't keep them occupied, but they seem to be very popular, and most counties are not having any problems at all keeping them occupied. So if we use that, roughly that same occupancy on this cabin, this proposed cabin, and I think being it's a 2-bedroom, you could charge a little more. Counties are charging anywhere from $65 a night to the nicer ones are going from anywhere to $150 to some of them even $200 a night. So it's kind of what you got and what people want to pay for, but this one, you know, since it would have heat, you know, you could possibly rent it off-season or later into the fall, into the cooler weather, you know, maybe still shut it down when it's super cold, but, you know, if your rentals don't justify keeping it open, but, and then kind of my proposed cost, and I'm still getting some numbers here, figured in. I've had one moving company come down and look at it. They were at 10,000. I've had another one come in that has not actually looked at it yet. They were in the 5,000 to 7,500 range, so that's kind of on the foundation. It's got a basement under it now, which I would propose putting a basement under this one too. It's going to be a little more expensive, but it gives you a couple options. One, if you would ever want to make more bedrooms, you know, you could put bedrooms in that basement. You know, if we do the foundation and put egress windows in now, that would be an option. If, you know, a lot of things that I'm seeing in other counties and what I'm hearing is the bigger cabins rent more, because a lot of times it'll be like two families want to rent them on a weekend, so that, you know, they can get all those people in them. So that would be an option down the road, you know, if we put a full basement under it. And plus, all the stuff is in the basement now, the furnace, water heater. So to put the furnace upstairs and reroute all the ductwork and stuff would just, you're gonna eat up that, any savings there probably. So that would be my suggestion there. And then too, you know, if you had a storm or something during the summer, then they have a place to go, so. Then obviously we'd have the electrical hookups, plumbing hookups, and we've got water and electrics there, depending on, we've kind of kicked around a couple different sites, so either site would have that available. We would have to do a septic system obviously for it though, that would be another cost. So I'm estimating, and like I said, estimating around 35,000 probably to move it, get it set in place and be operational. Like I said, I'm still getting some more numbers on the basement part of it, and I still got a guy coming down to look at moving it, so. I guess that's kind of where we're at, and Dean, if you got anything else to add.
Yeah, this is how close to the park then?
It's about, just about a mile straight east of the park.
Yeah.
So it's not moving it very far.
There's no bridges or major obstacles either, are
There's a
there?
few power lines. So.
Mhm. Jason, the current owner, what kind of timeline do they have for you if you want to
They
take
want
it?
to start building in the spring, so.
They want it
and
out.
they would like to see, well, they'd really like to see this fall, but obviously we're not gonna get there this fall, but.
To get a basement done this fall,
Yeah.
it's gonna be about next to impossible.
Yep, so I'm looking at spring, you know, early spring.
Okay. I think I understand this, when you say 60% occupancy, that's during open season, that's not year-round?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
that's just for our.
Okay.
Correct.
So that would probably be kind of the worst case scenario here then?
Yeah,
Probably what you're
I have no
thinking.
idea what to expect if we would keep it off-season, that's why I only put it at 25%. I don't, you know, that's, I can't
Sure.
predict what that's gonna be like. I can just kinda go off what other counties are seeing and whether we'll see that same occupancy, I don't know. Most of them are averaging, when you figure year-round, in that 45 to 50% occupancy. That's year-round, the ones that keep them open in the winter. Obviously more in the summer, less in the winter, but they can justify keeping them open in the winter with what they make, so. Whether that'll translate to Carroll County, I don't know.
Okay.
You'll probably have hunters like in the fall of the year, you know, that
Be good for
out
us.
of town hunters.
What's the reservation policy? I know I've always been thinking that someone should call Swan Lake and be able to make reservations for tent, which you can't, but I assume you'll let people reserve and make a down payment for
Yes.
the cabins? Is that how you do
Yeah,
it?
that's how we do it now, they just call out and talk to
Does
the
that work pretty good then?
Yep,
Okay.
and like on the weekends, we require 2 nights, so it's a Friday, you're gonna rent it for Friday, you gotta rent it Friday, Saturday, and that's what, holiday weekends are 3 days, so that's what most counties are doing, so.
You had that 5-year plan, is Chris, some of this stuff, I think the cabins were in that 5-year plan,
Right.
weren't they?
Yep.
Have you gotten anything back from Chris on that?
We haven't got anything formally wrote up yet, but that, in our original meeting, that was, cabins were obviously one thing that,
You're considering doing in the future?
because we, you know, I don't know if 60% seems like a lot, but, you know, we do get calls quite often, you know, people wanting to rent the cabin we've got now, you know, at a time that's already reserved, so then we don't have another option. option, and we don't have an option, you know, a two-bedroom option where you could have two couples or, you know, however it wants to be, and, or two families and however, so we really don't have an option for that. And one other thing that some counties are doing that I kind of kicked around, if we do this, some people like to camp, but they have friends that don't like to camp, so putting a camp pad next to the cabin, or if somebody wanted to pull their camper in, the other family could stay in the cabin. You know, just some things to think about.
How does Yellow Smoke work out? They have some cabins over there. Has that worked for them?
Yeah, they stay, you know, that's the thing, about all the counties you talk to, their cabins are, you know, campgrounds are busy too, but their cabins seem to be busy all the time, so.
Yeah, I think some of those you have to, probably almost a year in advance, you have to make reservations, otherwise you're just
Yeah,
not gonna
it
get a
depends on
cabin.
if you, weekends for sure, holiday
Yeah.
weekends definitely for sure, but, yeah.
We contacted a place that had like 12 cabins, similar to this, but in South Dakota,
So-
months and months in advance, full.
So what would you do with the garages?
We've kicked around a couple ideas. One, you take it off and you know, fix in the roof and just have the house itself. Another option is, we talked about possibly taking the garage doors out and making either an open door here, or a screened-in area where you could have some outdoor space separate from the house, but still be under.
A recreation,
under-
bigger area.
Kinda like a
yeah,
shelter.
under a roof,
Living-
throw a
living
couple-
area.
Yeah, and, you know,
That'd make
where you'd
more
still be
sense.
under, yeah, I wouldn't keep it as a garage, but do something where you could be out, somewhat outdoors, and around backside, there's a small deck off the back. And I think Dean had the idea of maybe coming out the back of the garage with a door and maybe a patio or something out there too, so just some outdoor space.
Because that would be towards the lake,
Yeah.
the, you know, that patio.
Yeah.
The moving estimate you received, does that include the garage too?
Yes, that'd be the whole thing.
Probably just about as easy to move the garage
I would,
as it would be to split it apart.
absolutely.
He said they could do it either way, but he said, yeah, he'd rather move it as a whole structure. He's the one guy, the other guy hasn't been down to look at it yet. but-
What is it lengthwise from end to end, do you know?
Overall is 62 feet, I believe. The house itself is 38 by 24, and then a 24 by 26 garage.
50-foot
So,
timber.
so the house itself's 912 square feet, so small, but functional for what we would use it for.
And you said since it's a ranch and it's low, you didn't think there'd be any problems, really?
They didn't
with
really-
Highline wires or?
They didn't think so, because it's got a 412, excuse me, 412 pitch roof on it, so it's not a steep roof, where he thought they could probably, once they get it on their trailer, they've got hydraulics where they can lower it down and probably get under most lines, but.
Where are you looking at putting it on the lake when you do move it?
We've talked about in the area where our current cabin is, having them both together, or the other thought, which I like a little better, is up by where the north shelter sits now. That north shelter, really, since we've got the education center and the east shelter, the north shelter doesn't get used a whole lot anymore, and it's to a point where something needs to be done with it.
Sills getting rotten.
The sills are rotting out,
Looked
and
at it last
the
night.
siding on the inside is
Yeah.
really getting rotten. And I just, to be honest, for the use it gets, can't really justify sticking a whole lot of money into it. So we're kicking around maybe eliminating that shelter and putting it up there, because you've got a nice view over the lake up there, and so that's an option.
Actually,
Those were kind of the two areas we're contemplating putting it
And
in.
you have electrical there.
Yeah, the
The
shelter's got
only
electric
thing-
and water in it.
The only thing I can see bad with that is somebody was, a group every summer had campers, and they'd be away from each other.
Mhm.
That's the only negative
Yeah.
I see of that.
And that would be the option of, you know, putting it where,
Camper pad,
that or putting it closer to the
or
campground.
to the other, yeah, to the other campground.
The other thing, if you have a walkout basement, that, you know, you're talking about the patio facing the lake, and if you had a walkout basement, that might be something to consider too, if you're
Yeah.
putting in a basement.
Yep. Yeah, especially if we did it on that hillside, you could
Mhm.
easily do that
Sure.
right there.
What is your specific request from this board, Jason?
Well, you know, I guess my request is, I guess if you're on board with it for one, and I guess if you would help fund any of the moving costs and the costs Because, you know, all our cabin revenues go back into the general fund, so, you know, obviously we could use money out of our capital account to pay for a part of it, which none of that is budgeted for, obviously, and I apologize for kind of dropping this on, but
And
it's
it's one of those
kind
opportunities.
That just came up, yeah.
It's not a thing that kind of just came up here in the last month or so, but they want to kind of move quick on it too, so I'm not trying to drop it in your lap, but kind of want to keep things moving on it too, if it's something that we can all agree would be a good idea, so.
Okay. Assuming you get the okay to do it, you also mentioned you'd like some funding from us, perhaps. What, do you have a dollar amount in mind or an estimate there?
I guess I would like, maybe if we could just split the cost. You know, I don't have, the problem, you know, I don't have exact numbers,
Sure.
and we'll have those, you know,
Okay.
hopefully more concrete numbers, but I think that 35,000 is a pretty
Pretty solid.
realistic range to be in, somewhere in that ballpark.
So you're saying 17.5, something like that?
Somewhere in there, 15,
Then you ain't take the rest out of your
we
capital.
take the rest out of our capital. And I know you just did a budget amendment, so we talked where if,
Yeah.
you know, we'd have to.
When would this money be wanted or needed?
Well, and that's, in talking with Kenny Snyder, we could, you know, if we would possibly get anything to be going this fall, because I know you don't want to do another budget amendment right now, so, where we could take the money out of the foundation, pay for anything that we could maybe do this fall, and then at some point pay the foundation back out of our capital, you know, if we needed to go that route, so.
Well, I think it's a good idea. You guys have had this discussion, I know,
Well, and
of the
just-
cabins and.
Yeah, and we were in, up in Webster and Hamilton County last weekend for a conference, and we were looking at Hamilton County's cabins. And they've got one would be similar in size to this, a 2-bedroom. It did have a loft in it, so you had another sleeping area, which this one doesn't. And it is a log cabin, but their small one, they spent $140,000 building it. Their bigger ones, they spent $185,000 building them. So, you know, to build new, obviously, we're gonna spend considerably more money, and this is something the Conservation Board wants to do in their 5-year plan anyway. So obviously, this would be a cost-effective approach to getting the same thing done. Obviously, you got a little different, you're looking at a house versus a new construction cabin, but there's things we could do, you know, to the house. Take the white vinyl siding off it and put something that looks a little more rustic on it, and, you know, we could, for fairly cheap, could do some things that.
If the vinyl siding's fine, I wouldn't screw it.
Well, and like I said, that's nothing that we would even need to do
Yeah.
right away,
Right
because
away,
it's
yeah.
structurally fine, exactly the way it sits, so there wouldn't have to be a whole lot of anything put into the house immediately, I guess is what I'm saying, but
Sure.
down the road, you could do things to it to make it more cabinish if you wanted to, but it's.
Probably safe to say you'd sure like to have an affirmative decision today, but at what point would you have to have a decision before it gets to
Well,
make
like I
it
said, I'm
pretty-
still trying to get numbers from
I
a
mean, if
few
it
different people on basements.
takes us a
so.
week or a month, at what point do you have to know something from this board to not encumber your?
It probably will depend on if anybody could do any work this fall, and I don't have that answer, so I would like it sooner than later, that
Sure.
way,
Okay.
if somebody does step up and say, hey, we can do this,
Move forward.
we can move
Yeah, I
forward
don't
versus,
know
versus waiting.
if it's kosher to move a house and just park it while you're waiting for the basement to get done. I know it'd be best if you just did one move,
Right.
but that.
And it sounds like both of the companies I've talked to probably wouldn't be able to move it till spring, or depending on the winter, but if.
It might be a question to ask, or I would ask, is it doable for them just to move it and set it on blocks until we get the work done here? Then it would be near where you wanted it, and it would involve
Yeah.
2 moves, so
Yeah,
maybe it's
then-
cost
Then they would have to
prohibitive.
come back in and.
Well, I think a lot of times
Lift
they
it
leave them
again.
loaded. I think a lot of times when they do that, they leave them loaded. They don't take them off.
save money down the
I mean,
road.
that's something I could
I
check
expect,
on,
I expect
'cause-
that'd be cost prohibitive. It'd be interesting to know if they have
Probably.
worked out a good system to do that.
Because then they have to come back.
The other thing, you don't wanna get a basement started and then leave it open over the winter either though.
Right.
And you've got issues also.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I probably don't have answers to all your questions, but
No,
we're
that's fine.
still in the.
Sure. That's understood. All right.
Yeah, most of my questions got answered just by listening, so, but I do have a couple of questions. Some of your accounting that you brought in, you've shown us, you know, the revenues, which is helpful, but what we're not seeing is what the expenditures have been.
Right.
And so how do we know, or what kind of accounting is done? Are the cabins money makers?
Well, I would say, yeah.
Or do they at least break even?
Oh,
Do
yeah.
they pay for themselves at
Yeah,
least?
because we don't, you know, the way our cabin, the current cabin, the way the electricity's set up out there, we've got kind of meters all over, so we can't really meter that specifically to know, you know, what kind of electricity it's using or.
But in terms of like
But
upkeep and capital
we do a little
expense-
maintenance to it once in a while. We've changed some flooring out in it.
I mean, we put new carpet in and things like that. Do
But-
we have a way of knowing whether or not
I think
our
we-
rents have offset any of that? I mean, if you're putting it into the general fund, I assume the expenditures are coming out of the general
Right,
fund.
yep.
And so, is there any type of side accounting to know whether or not these things at least break even?
I mean, I could go back and look at what we've put into this cabin, the one we've got now. I don't have those numbers with me, but other than the original remodel to the cabin, because it was the old concession stand, so we went in and did some work to kind of convert it to a cabin. I think the only things we've done to that cabin is we put some flooring in the main part, and we did that right after we remodeled it. And then the bedroom that's in there had carpet in there, and this past winter, we took the carpet out and put just a laminate floor down in there, and we dumped like $700 or something into that flooring. So, I mean, other than, you know, cleaning supplies, paper towels, toilet paper, that kind of stuff.
An occasional roof every 20 years?
Yeah, and then I said, this has got the.
Siding,
the same-
windows?
The same roof, same siding on it, that we did fix up some of the siding and stain it a couple years ago.
The reason I'm asking,
I
Jason,
understand.
is, you know, if you've already identified this in your 5-year plan, that there's a desire to have one, but, you know, I guess what I'm curious to know is if there's a need for one, and then equally as importantly, as far as the board is concerned, perhaps, you know, we might be interested, you know, and I'll just throw it out there, you know, rather than just, you know, a gift out of the general fund, perhaps we could do it as a loan out of the local option fund, and then get it paid back, if they're making money. I certainly would be open to an arrangement, you know, something like that.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this, do you know years ago, they set up that capital fund, 3 different things: park improvements,
Mhm.
capital expenditures, and then trail maintenance.
Right.
Where are we sitting at? I just pulled it out of my bag last night, but do you happen to know what your capital fund is today? And if so, is there enough in there just to fund the whole thing, simply by shifting some of these park improvements or capital improvement funds into that and pay it all told?
I think we're sitting at, is it 90, somewhere around 90
Yeah, I think it's
total.
90,000.
Right here.
It's kind of messed up with that
The
trailer in there.
capital projects conservation is 93,000.
Yeah.
And that was at the end of August.
Yep,
But to me, that's a fairly healthy balance in itself.
yep.
You've got some 5-year plan to do some surfacing beyond Maple River on the trail, and I want to keep that trail maintained, as you know.
Yep.
We might be doing something with that property that's getting cleaned up,
Yep.
and I want to save some money there, but
Yep.
we're talking $17,000 out of 93. To me, I would think and that's what we set this thing up for,
Right.
is for capital expenditures and park improvements. This would be both. I would like the board to just be mindful of that.
And conservation is in a unique situation with the cash rents you guys get. You have an income stream. Some offices in our just have little or no income at all. They're just public service.
And that's understood, and I understand that, and, you know, and some of the things we've done out of our capital, you know, obviously the trail was a huge expense out of there, but, you know, we do get money from our camping revenues that go into our capital, which we've built 2 new shower houses with, but, you know, none of the cabin money comes, that all goes back to the general fund, none of that comes into our capital, where, I guess, to put money back into cabins out of capital, it's just, it's easier to justify for me when I got money coming in from the campground to put back into the campground, or the trails, you know, you get money out of the trail passes to put back into the trail.
Right.
So I guess that would be why I'm asking, you know, if the cabin revenues went into capital and we could build that up to put into cabin, you know, then that, to me, that would be a different situation.
I'm
That's
certainly
not-
I'm certainly on board with it, just as long as we find I hesitate a little bit, just a general fund contribution, to a
And that's
certain
why I'm
extent.
just here asking,
But
so.
I think there's other ways in which we can pay for it.
The revenues don't go into the capital fund now, they go into the general fund.
Correct.
But the revenue from the cash rent from the land they own does.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And the expenditures do as well. I think that's important to know.
Correct, yes.
Right.
I certainly understand why you aren't financially prepared for this, because, you know, it's just something you couldn't predict in advance, and I understand why you may need some financing for that. Yeah, if it would be at a loan on a repayment, and I think it's a great opportunity, and if it'd be something that we could float you the money for and have repaid back, it's very easy for me to approve something like that. If you're expecting an outright gift of half, have to mull over that one a little bit. And maybe you need to
Whatever we
talk.
can work out.
And maybe you need to talk to your conservation board or
Yeah.
to determine that as well. When is your next meeting?
October 10th.
And I can see where if their revenues for the cabin's been going into the general fund, why they asked to.
But
I
you
know-
make good points, Mark.
I know
Yeah,
when we,
I understood.
when we set up these capital funds, that was kind of the idea for it, so that the conservation board wouldn't have to be coming to us very often. We knew it may not be an end all, but we knew it wouldn't totally eliminate you guys asking us for something, but
Correct.
it certainly was supposed to help out a lot.
Yep.
And it has, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Well, a little history there is that, you know, Tom will remember this too, that I really thought a lot of it needed to be set aside for trail maintenance, and they still wanted this park improvement capital expenditure thing, so they wouldn't have to be coming back to the board.
Mhm.
And that's where we're at. This is a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
So, little history there.
Sure, yep.
Is there any reason that the cabins were out of the general fund?
I don't see why they can't be their own, enterprise. You know, particularly when you got a separate board there and you've got clear lines of delineage. I don't know why that they couldn't be. Certainly tons of software available for it, so.
I was just wondering why the camping and the gun range and the everything else is out of the capital but the cabins.
Yeah.
Well, and that
So
would
tell
be
your board,
something-
I mean, I think we're on board with it, but we just gotta talk a little bit more about how we're gonna.
That's fine. You talk amongst yourselves about that,
Sure.
and whatever you decide to do will be.
Is it fair to say that Jason's going to will want a clear message to take back to his board? Is it fair to say that we favor this movement, and if it would be on a loan basis, it would be easy, and if they expect a complete gift, we have to discuss that a little more. Is that a fair assessment from this board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is that clear enough for you?
Perfect.
All right.
Yep.
Good, and you're sure welcome to bring your board members in here if you want. I think over the years, the communication between conservation and this board has been very good. There had been issues years ago, and I'm very pleased with our relationship
Yep.
with the conservation board now, so that's good.
Well, and then just want to dive into a project like this without everybody being on board with it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think-
if
I
and
think
when
it
it
is-
comes to it, I do think the local option fund is most appropriate for it. Because this is clearly economic development. It's exactly what that lost fund should be used for.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
So do you think we could give him the, kind of the green light somewhat to pursue this or not?
I think we need to hear back from their board if they would be agreeable to a
Okay.
loan option.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain that I feel real comfortable if that would work for your board, that it would go through here, and we haven't voted yet, obviously, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll see what I can find out.
And there's the option to still use that capital account. I mean, that's.
Sure.
I mean, then that's entirely, mostly your decision there in itself.
So
There's two options.
So, yeah, so if you guys
Use it all
decide
out.
to go with the capital fund, then you could probably just go ahead with it on themselves, correct?
Right.
Well, it's not budgeted.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not
budgeted,
budgeted, but, yeah.
But, yeah.
And that's,
So, Dean, is what you're saying, and if I understand you correctly, is that you want to tell them that this board is totally in favor of them doing that. However, if they need financing or a grant, they should come back and discuss that separately.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yep.
I think, anybody think differently here?
No, I think that's.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if they have an opportunity to move forward prior to us giving the approval, that it's probably gonna happen somehow or another, you know? I mean, if it means lining up somebody to move the building, I wouldn't wanna say, well, if I don't know by
Okay.
the only one,
October.
you know, the only one thing that I gotta keep in the back of my head with our capital account is we've got the final year on that, the TIGAS loan to pay off next year, so I can't be shorting my capital, so I'm gonna have to have that money in there.
Pay that.
But there will be more money coming
Yeah.
in throughout the year, so
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
There's
mean-
1 year left on this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
we'll pay that off next year, so.
Um,
I just gotta keep that in the back of my head as to where we're at on that.
I'm with you.
Let's document in our minutes that the board approves the move or the taking the house, how are we gonna say that?
The gift, donation.
We
Accept
approve
the
that,
gift.
and if they, and if your board wants some type of financial aid to do it, you'd have to come back to us with a specific request for that.
Okay.
So we'll
That would
doc.
be in the form of either a loan or a gift.
Yeah, you'd have to come back to
I'll
us
come
with what
back.
you wanna do, and
Well, let me-
we vote that up or down.
Okay, let me,
And your estimate will probably be a little closer by then, too.
hopefully, yes. So I apologize, again, I apologize for dropping this.
Yeah, but
Don't be-
no, you had something dropped in your lap.
So
Okay.
we'll see where we can.
It's a
What
good-
else
Appreciate
can you
it.
do to us?
It's a good
What?
thing, so.
You had it dropped in your lap, what else can you do to us?
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Good job, good work. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
Jason, just out of curiosity, do you guys hire the county clean and wash the sheets and after someone stays there, or do you guys hire
Everybody
somebody?
brings their own bedding.
Oh, they bring their own stuff, but you don't have to do any cleaning
Right.
afterward when people.
We just do a quick cleanup of the cabinet itself, but they bring all their own.
Anything else we need to discuss on the cabin?
No, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Let's move to our insurance discussion with Mid-Iowa, and that brings Terry Axman. Good morning, Terry.
Hi, Terry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Terry.
Come on, Terry.
Before the meeting, I visited with Terry about what our discussion was, and he's got it all set up for us here.
Everybody, one of those.
Nope. You bet.
All right, there's two informational pieces that I've passed out here. The first one is a breakdown of all county vehicles. And you can see, on the very first one, you can see that the very first item is a 1996 Trail King trailer. You can see, we give it a value, we look at a comp and a collision deductible, and then you can see the physical damage premium that combines both comp and collision. There's a breakdown for all the vehicles that you have throughout that packet. Kind of to summarize everything, though, I think that other smaller sheet shows that currently, with the given deductibles that you have, your physical damage premium is just over $37,000, $37,008.78. At one point, we looked at an optional $500 and $1,000 deductible options. And were you to go to that, you would have saved $2,910.53. So there's certainly other deductible options that the county could go. You could go even higher. There comes a point where there's a diminishing return on what you get as the deductible. So if, for example, if you would go to 1,000 on comp and 2,500 on collision, you might save another $1,000 or 1,200 somewhere ballpark, you know. So that gives you an idea of what you're looking at. I mean, to say the least, you could, eliminate all physical damage on all your vehicles and save $37,000, but you'd have, substantial, risks. Some of your trucks out there, especially in secondary roads, you've got some, pretty expensive pieces of equipment, and some of the sheriff's department, some of those vehicles are fairly expensive when by the time you add all the equipment that they are required to have on. So I think this is what you were looking for, hopefully, the breakdown. A couple points. There would be no advantage to doing anything at this point in time, because the way the ICAP program works is if you were to add a vehicle today, they do not charge you any additional premium for a vehicle added during the policy period. Only when the renewal comes on would it be added for next year. So if you were to diminish or increase your deductibles right now, there would be no savings until policy renews, which is, I think, December 31st, January 1st. So you wouldn't want to make that change now. You would want to make it effective on the renewal date. Now, likewise, if you take this policy, take them off now, you don't get that credit for it right now, is what I'm saying. So you don't want to do that until the renewal period. One other thing that I would just throw out, I know that now I've given Courtney the information, and that gets dispersed to all department heads. If any of the department heads have any questions or would like me to meet with them individually, I would be happy to, set aside some time and go visit those folks on an individual basis if that were to be beneficial. I mean, a lot of them have done, this for quite a few years, and it gets to be kind of routine, but I certainly want to offer my services if they have any specific questions or, anything that I can help them with. I'd be happy to do that.
And again, Terry, we're at 250, 500 currently.
There, you can see there's 200 on the first page. There's a lot of them are 200 and $350. If you get back a few pages, I think.
Oh, I see.
For some reason, I think maybe higher valued vehicles that we just started, added on later. We bumped the collision deductible up to like 600. So there was a few of them that we chose to start going from $350 to $600 deductible. So again, I think those were some of the higher value. Now you can see on the very end, and I don't mean to confuse you, but I mean, again, on the very end, you have some of the equipment that you have, like motor graders and so forth. You do have coverage, I believe, on some of those motor graders on a separate policy. We just insure them for liability here because this policy covers that. There's a separate policy in place that you have for your heavy equipment that you'd have to look at for that as well. And Dave, I think you've got that information, I think, on what you've got as far as your motor graders and some of that sort of thing.
And this optional change that you've given us, that's if we do a blanket thing and put everything 500 and 1,000, whereas we actually have the ability to hand pick.
Correct. I mean, you would still have no comp and collision on those that don't have it now. But just the ones that have physical damage now, it would be changing as those, because there's a few of the older ones. And that's something that the county, I would certainly suggest, some of the older vehicles, it might be time to take them off, and then you could set a value, whether it's, if it's under 25,000 or, I mean, there's no magic number there, but it's whatever your preference is there.
Yeah, at our previous meeting, the number 5,000 came up, that anything under 5,000 shouldn't be on the list.
Yeah.
And that's plenty low in my opinion, but that's the number that we had.
Yeah, and that's entirely up to the board.
But anything that we add, there's really not a choice. We want to add it to our schedule the day we get it, so it's covered.
Mhm.
But we wouldn't actually have to start paying it till January 1st. And anything we deduct, we'd want to take it off right before January 1st.
Exactly.
So it gets taken off
Mhm.
for the year, or else
Correct.
if we wait until
If we wait till the middle of
January
January,
10th,
then it's.
you're gonna pay,
paying
you'll
for
be
the whole
paying
year.
for it anyhow, so. All right, and that's why all our department heads are asked to review their, items that are insured, so that we can, keep the schedule up to date. The property schedule.
Does that list kind of make sense and what we've got to do to
Mm-hmm.
enough information to kind of base your decisions on?
So essentially, if you averaged out the collision deductibles at an average of, say, $500, they're either $350 or $600. That would allow us to self-insure for roughly 6 collisions. And I think we're probably experiencing the better part of 2 to 3 now. We've always got somebody running into something or a deer or sheriff department's certainly had the most
They've had
exposure
their
of
fair
that,
share,
as
yeah.
has the
Yeah.
ambulance.
Mhm.
But you could roughly afford 6 collisions and break even with it.
You
Is that about how
mentioned-
you figure it?
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of rough, but
yeah.
The example you gave with 500 and 1,000 is roughly what we were looking for an example. So you just hit that right on the head. Is there, and you also mentioned where that increases, you hit the point of diminishing returns where you're saving less for every dollar.
Correct.
Is there a sweet spot in there? Or is it
No,
pretty-
there really isn't. I mean, I think you're probably, I would say the 500,000 is the best value, because if you went, again, from a 500,000 to 1,000, and then I think the next jump is 2,500 on the collision,
Mhm.
you may only save another $1,200, and so one loss is going to eat that up.
Well, I definitely think we ought to go with that 500,000 myself.
And that's what we would look at on the renewal. We would
Yeah.
come in with those figures for you
Okay.
instead of the.
As a general statement, I agree with that, although we do have the option to handpick and not do it to certain items if there were certain items that we wanted to insure differently. So,
Yeah, you could.
his example was on a blanket, which is fine.
The only question I would have there is, throughout the year, if there's a vehicle added, we would want to know what, if it's a certain amount, if it's $80,000 are going to be treated with a higher deductible than a lesser, we would like to know what we should do when a new vehicle is then purchased throughout the course of the year. So let's say there's a vehicle that's, maybe $30,000 car. Is that going to stay at the 200, 350? Or let's say we add a secondary roads and they have a $170,000 dump truck. Is there a cutoff of when we change the deductibles on the policy, or how are we supposed to know? Now, we've kind of limited them, they're pretty simple because, but, or the department head would have to tell us when they told us, we need to get our guidance from, an authority from the county when they come to us. Right now, they really don't, they just say, here's a vehicle, add it to it.
Mhm.
we've been-
And you know what you do.
Yeah, and so that would be the only thing that we would need guidance from, because we can, I don't want to be responsible to pick your deductible for you, that's not our position. I mean, we need.
well, anything added wouldn't have a lower deductible, I wouldn't imagine. I mean, to hand pick. I mean, anything, we rarely buy anything used. It's all gonna be 30,000 or more.
I don't
So-
see no advantage of hand picking them.
I don't either.
But what about,
once they get older, perhaps you could.
Yeah,
or
well, then
just
you
remove
eliminate
them,
them,
Or
yeah.
just
Eliminate
eliminate
them,
them.
yeah.
But,
Take some of the old
but I
ones.
wouldn't necessarily say there's any advantage to that.
$90,000 to $100,000 vehicles and a lower one on your, for that, I mean.
That's what I'm asking, is if
Yeah.
you set a value on it, but.
Which deductible
But,
to
yeah,
use.
but, you know, quite honestly, I would think that the county would just go with a flat 500,000 would be, I mean, for $300 on an older
Right.
vehicle, the county
Right.
can certainly handle.
That'd be my.
You don't have that many
I've
claims.
always had the philosophy of self-insure your to,
What you're comfortable with.
to a certain
Yeah.
degree, but I kinda got proven wrong on that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's no guarantees of.
Sure.
Okay.
And like I said, you certainly don't have to make any decision today. I mean, you've got time to, you know, let us know before the renewal process at the end of the year.
Yeah, just so we don't forget about it again.
Oh, I won't let you forget.
In addition to making this decision, I think it's imperative that we review our property schedule too. You know, make sure everything we have is on here, if it should be on here. I hate to miss something, not have it on a property schedule and have a issue and say, well, it's not on your schedule, it's not insured. And also, there's some of these lower value things we need to get off of there.
When you're talking property, you're talking your buildings and so forth as well?
Well, everything. Even,
The department heads are all reviewing those as well.
Okay.
And one of the things that I think I mentioned it to Courtney, and I don't know if I brought it to the board, that there's going to be, I don't know if they've contacted Courtney yet, to do kind of the appraisal of the property. It's something that ICAP offers that nobody else does. I mean, things like the courthouse are very, very difficult to get a true picture of what the insured value could be. I mean, you could go out and ask local contractors, but it would be difficult. And they're gonna come in and then do an appraisal of that building. And, you know, we found many counties and many entities that are severely underinsured, like 20 million low, on some water treatment plants. And that doesn't affect the county, but, you know, there's been a lot of value there. It doesn't, you know, a lot of times you think we're just trying to get more value out of it. But, you know, if we can say the county, the courthouse is at 8 million and it should be 12, you know, we want to know that. You always have the option to keep it where you want, to feel comfortable. And they don't charge you, when they find this, they don't charge you the additional premium if you bump it up. And they give you one cycle to get your financing in order, you know, so they know that you guys, how your budget operates, so they give you that grace period to get it up if you do decide to increase your value. So we should be, you know, in pretty good shape on that as well. But like I said, that's something that we do go through, and Lori in our office keeps pretty good track of all the buildings and so forth. And, you know, there's really very little time that we take much off. There just hasn't been, you know, usually you're adding, you know, more and more. But, so, yeah, and again, if the department heads have questions on that, they're more than welcome to get a hold of me or Lori, and we'll help them go through. Every year we give them what they had from the previous year. So all they have to do is see, did we add anything or did we take anything off? I mean, that sounds simple, but sometimes.
Right. So say example, we're gonna build a new shed in Arcadia this spring. That process would catch that type of addition.
Should, yeah.
Okay. Makes sense?
I see a high level of consistency. On January 7th, we got a letter from Lori Willenberg from Mid-Iowa Insurance saying if we did exactly this, go to $500 and $1,000, we would save $2,954. And today you're quoting us $2,910, which it's a little different property schedule too. So we're seeing a pretty consistent estimation there on your behalf. So that's the dollars we're talking about. Does this board want to make a decision today? I know last week we wanted to wait to hear from you, Terry, and I think you've kind of confirmed what we already knew. And
I'm certainly good with it.
I am too.
You
I am
want to
too.
move forward
Yeah.
with it
Okay.
today, and that way it just gets caught what, sometime in December when we make renewal period and then it's effective January 1st? Perfect.
I would like a motion from the board to change our comp to 500 and our collision to 1,000 then.
Also move.
I'll second it.
Okay, that motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Do we wanna do anything on valuation right now?
Well,
On value?
Courtney, the department heads are looking at everything they have.
Last week I got everybody's information, so then I transfer it to the total document. I thought once that was done, you guys could review everything rather than a department here and there.
Rather than piecemeal it together.
Do it all in one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should have that in the next couple of
But I mean,
weeks.
do we wanna set a value where we take it off the insurance for us?
But if you guys wanna do that when you look at the total,
Okay.
the package in the whole.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions on a dollar amount that should,
You know, I guess I encourage our clients to assume what they feel comfortable with, and I can't tell you what you're comfortable with. You know, in looking at this, you may wanna look at, I don't know, like your motor graders and stuff are on a separate policy as well. So I don't know if Dave had any.
Anything under $100,000 is not.
So if you're assuming that kind of liability there, you know, there's probably more that can happen with your vehicles than motor graders and stuff, but you're accepting $100,000 of risk per unit there. And over here, it would, you know, to me, it would seem that you could assume like a $20,000 or, you know, something.
Even 10 for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And right now, we're talking 5, so.
Yeah, so I'm a little uncomfortable saying, you know, picking that number, but
Okay.
I would say, you know, between 10 and 20,000, the county should, again, because that's the value that is stated there, and Mark, you're in the auto business, that's just a, you know, ballpark.
Doesn't necessarily make what it's worth.
No, that.
Right, or what you get the check for.
Well, and, you know, when it's $10,000 this year, we don't change the value on it, we don't depreciate that vehicle, so did it go down from last year from 10 to 9?
Of course it did. Right.
So, again, we just set that value when we start, and, you know, we can have, again, maybe it's, I don't wanna put more work on department heads, but what values are these vehicles actually worth as they depreciate through their lifetime?
okay. Very good. Terry, I appreciate you coming in. Any questions for our insurance expert while he's here? Okay. Appreciate your explanation, Terry. Thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
Terry.
Have a
Thanks,
good week.
Terry.
Thanks, Terry, thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay. I think that was a time well spent there.
Yes.
Okay. 10 a.m. we're going to have a public hearing. A little before earlier. It's not quite there yet. Dave, do you have some things you could cover before up till 10 a.m.?
I sure hope so.
I sure hope
Dave.
so.
We got
Enjoying
places to
myself,
be.
but it's a pretty nice day. out
You
there.
can't talk fast.
You're starting off pretty good, but
Little levity.
You're just happy you ain't over in Eastern Iowa, right?
That's what.
Get your head above
FEMA
water.
come to mind.
Yeah.
Not really.
I'm gonna pass this around, it's sort of right next to here where I've got the circle, called in the other day about a tree in the drain, and
where are we at here, Dave?
Drains
In Carroll.
in Carroll.
Okay.
Let me pull out the section of code, 468-138, this is on drainage districts. The board shall cause to be removed from ditches as obstructions. Any obstructions which interfere with the flow of water, including trees, hedges, shrubberies thereof. And there's other circumstances here, but this one is within the ditch, does comply with this section of code.
This property owner
Yes.
called it in.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
We've had a number of calls this year on that particular drain because there's trees all over the place. And they've been related to really trees outside the drain. The channel itself, where the board is responsible. So we haven't really had any of those. I guess one other that we did have early on in the year.
See once you cut it
We
down.
did that one.
How big one is it?
It's not very big.
It's probably Granite Road.
That's
Yeah,
got
here's
an
Grant.
unusual
Yeah.
circumstance there with a former real
18th
estate
Street.
company, the developer of the subdivision. The name of the land that the tree is set on and
Yeah,
the drain
there's a
sits
little-
on is in
there's
their
that one
name rather
bridge.
than
See that little
an
one
individual's name. Why they did that, I don't know, but it's kind of like no man's land.
Well, it doesn't look like there's a lot of trees there.
Well, that was
There's only one, right?
That could have been taken.
a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Just
A few
one.
years ago, we took those out.
We did some work down here about, that been a year ago?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I can remember that.
So it's just gonna be a full tree removal?
Yeah,
Wait for the creek to ice over and cut it.
yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Do what?
Wait till the creek freezes and cut it.
Okay, so you don't have to remove it entirely?
I think we could probably pull the branches and the wood up out of there, yeah, it's a pretty small tree.
Okay.
Most of the other ones are up on the bank through there, not really within. Don't go out and look for work in there, because it would be
Right.
Just be
all
easier,
over.
just be easier to do when the creek is froze.
Yeah. Be good access from the street.
So it's not, it's in the creek itself, it's causing an obstruction to the
Yeah.
creek.
Mhm.
Yeah, it complies with this section of code, which interfere with the flow of water.
I mean, it's not roots in a tile or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the removal of the tree.
I'll second it.
77.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded to authorize secondary roads to remove that tree from drain 77. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Both same sign. Okay, I think we're required by law to do that, so. Our motion
By
says we're
code.
gonna comply with the law. Okay, Dave?
Had a request on a level C road where it's circled, the landowner's name's down there, would like some gravel, a little bit of gravel on each end of it where it is gravel right now, kind of fill in what's diminished over the years. There's part of it in the middle, it's dirt, doesn't want to gravel on that, I don't think.
No, basically where you put that tile line in.
Yeah.
I would
Where it
say
is.
you wouldn't.
And then it's on the east end. And basically what it is there's a lot of clay here. If we have a wet fall, he hauls a lot of grain on it. And he just wants something there, so he's got a base.
How far is he wanting to go in?
Just on the two slopes of the hills, on the west end and then on the east end. And probably we're talking maybe 4 or 5 loads. And we're talking maybe crushed concrete or gravel, poured gravel. So he's kind of looking at. Just so he's got a base, sir.
Is that Eden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely an Eden.
36
Yeah,
Eden.
it's right on the county line.
Oh, down.
That's a C road.
It's a C road, yeah. Yeah, this, one reason I asked, because I don't, it says that we won't do it, but we've done it before.
Well, by
on
board
occasions, and by board
Yeah.
approval.
Okay, we've got a producers asking for us to make an exception to our policy of putting granular on level C roads. And what would be the cost of doing that as he wants it, or a little bit on each end? What cost are we talking about, Dave?
You're talking
$600,
two
$700,
loads.
Yeah.
probably. 4 loads, 15 tons a load, $10 a ton. 60 tons.
Well, on the east end, there's 2 farmers come in there a ways to get into their
Yeah.
operations there. And it's the same way on the west side. I can see a load or two on each end, that'd be it, though. That's the rest of it.
I'm okay with it.
It's,
It's not a
it's,
major deal.
it's exception of policy, it's well within our jurisdiction to do that.
I guess the comment I'm gonna make is he worked with us on putting a tile line in and drain a seep on that road, and I think we need to work with him.
Good point. I'm fine with it.
He did the tile on his own. I'd make a
Really?
motion to that effect.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to authorize the engineer to put some gravel at the ends of the level C road there. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Okay, motion carried.
Time left. There's a picture of one of our doors. I had two contractors come out, look at our doors, both from Carroll here. And that one's the worst one, but the hinge is rusted off on that. You can just almost pull the door off the frame, and the others are going down the line. Looks like maybe when they were put in, they were cored with something that drew moisture. They're all rusting, and some are worse than others.
Is this on the secondary roads, Billy?
This is the
This
main
is on
building.
our main building, yeah.
It almost looks like salt eating it.
It does, doesn't it? But, in talking to one of the contractors.
All four doors?
I think, we could have, drywall mud, they could have put it in there, something that was hygroscopic, like calcium chloride got in there.
Yeah.
And it's primarily the frame of the doors. I've got two proposals on those.
These fire-rated doors
They are, yeah,
Yeah.
and fire-rated glass on it
and a return.
in return, yeah. And there's extras on the proposals.
But you
One's
can-
from
you can-
Baiting
you
and
can
one's
reuse
from
the,
warranty.
You can reuse your return,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's operating.
So what's the difference?
With all the extras, Baiting is the low quotation. We got the quotes as standardized as we could amongst the two vendors, so they were pretty low biddings.
Doing frames and doors.
Frames, doors, threshold,
Painted.
closers, painted with epoxy, and the one proposal has got to put in 1/2 inch or 1 inch safety glass on it, which I think it was stated as quarter in one of the other proposals, but I think it's thicker than that, the safety glass that we've
What are
got.
they, 42s?
I think they're 36.
Oh, they're not that bad.
I got it.
We just went through it.
So, yeah. Yeah, they're running nearly 3,000 a door.
Whoa. Yeah, they're
But that's,
nasty.
with the closures and the lock set, and our lock sets are in varying degrees of decay. We've replaced 2 or 3 of them
Yeah, they're
already,
nasty.
So you got 4 doors and
8 doors.
orders in.
Oh, 8 doors.
Yeah, that would be good.
Wish
They're
we had
all doing
4.
it, huh?
Oh, they all look like
They're
that?
all doing them.
Yeah, this one's the worst one. It's in the survey van room where there's no calcium, no,
That's weird.
it just, that explanation seemed pretty good. And there's one that's not too bad, that's right off the break room, but as long as we're going at it, it's on the way.
Replacement materials, will this not happen again?
I don't think it will. I think we're gonna insulate with something, other than coring the door. It's interesting, because there's no rust on the ones inside the building, and where the block walls are, where they cored it with mortar,
Mhm.
as they went up, not a bit of rust. It seems to all be just those walk-in doors. And if it were something coming from within, there'd be several doors that would be really in bad shape inside the building, say from the salt on the trucks or something.
The outside doors would also be exposed to a lot of moisture.
They would, yeah.
Could I see that picture again?
This one?
So that, yeah, that's replacing the frame and everything.
It is, yeah. Frame
Things right down to
special,
rough.
putting a drip cap on the top.
Yeah, you just can't pull pins and.
This is that one, Dean. That's the one with the transom on it, is that one that's in the worst shape.
Okay.
They both seem to have time to do it this fall, which would be good.
All right. Dave has presented us with a request to replace 8 doors and their abutments and framing.
I'm glad you got 2 bids, and we just went through it, so I know how much they are too. So
Yeah.
very familiar with that. I'd make a motion to approve the low bid. Baiting.
I'll second that.
21,294.
Okay. It's been a motion made and seconded to authorize Dave instruction to replace the doors at a quote of $21,294.
Yeah, hopefully I did the math right with all these extras, but all the recommended extras that they had on there. Want to do it, I think I did.
Did you use an adding machine to keep the tape?
No.
Okay. Well, you
Sure,
might be back in
calculator.
here then, because that's what the motion says. Okay.
I'll have to pay the
That's
rest
right.
myself.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Dave, we're past our public hearing time. What else have?
I've got a couple just real minor, well.
If you can
I'll
shoot them
just-
by quick, go ahead.
Uh,
I don't think there's any crowd here for the public hearing, so if it starts late, we're okay, I think.
We're getting some of that shoulder rock from Norris at $80 a load. They've dumped off about 30 loads so far. That limestone, it's about $4 a ton, so it's just like a no-brainer. It's,
Okay.
it ain't the best stuff in the world, but it's probably worth $8 or $10 a ton. And I don't think we're gonna get a whole lot more of it, but right now, we've probably got 30 loads of it.
Is that from 71?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And Peterson Contractors might start on the 2 federal aid boxes, the one south of Carroll and the township line and the one over by John Ely's place, might start this week. The rain out east, they've got work to do there, and that might have driven them this direction. Hopefully it don't bring rain. Cunningham Reese is gonna start down at Dedham, doing the DLAM on that Dedham Brushy Creek Bridge, taking the concrete off and patching where the concrete's delaminated. They're gonna start there. That'll take them 4 days supposedly, about a quarter of the bridge day. They're responsible for the traffic controls. The bridge will be open all the time. That'll be fully open at night. Stuff's going up pretty fast, like in about an hour.
That's the first one north out of Dedham.
Second one, north out of Dedham, the one over Brushy.
Oh, okay.
I think that's it.
Okay, all right. Anybody have anything else for our county engineer? All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Dave.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Have a good
Dave.
week.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're scheduled to have a public hearing for the FY17 county budget amendment, so at approximately 10:08, I'm going to open up that public hearing. And I'd like to start it with Courtney, just to explain the details of it, if you would, please.
So there has not been any changes since the first time we discussed this a couple weeks ago, but I will go through and just go through the expenses and the revenue that are proposed. Does everybody still have this sheet? I was gonna go off this one. 'cause
Yeah.
it's off this one.
It's okay.
Yeah, what meeting was that?
The 20.
19.
19th?
I have mine handy if you'd like copies made, anyone.
Just get started here.
Okay.
So, under expenditures, we had $15,000, and Carl met with the board, to discuss that. So I did leave that in there. We have Emergency Preparedness Coalition, that was $12,000.
Somebody wanna look at mine?
Keep going.
And it's offset with the revenue of the same. We discussed that a little bit about how that grant money comes in and goes back out, and it was affecting departments' budgets. We have money in here for the courthouse anniversary, $10,000. We have it expensing out and coming back in, the same amount. And then that $93 for the ambulance, that was some grant money. So he isn't really requesting $93. Well, he is requesting $93, but it's grant money that he'd like to have back in his budget. And then we have more grant money for the ambulance this time. This is the 10% withholding. They don't give you the whole 100%. They give you 90, and then a little later they give you the remaining 10. And this was from fiscal 16, so it's coming in a little late. That's $3,279. Drainage assessments, $4,874. We had only budgeted $2,300, and the drains came in $4,874 short. We had a lot of drainage assessments this year, and the county had a lot of them too, so the total for general basic requested is $45,246. And the revenue, total cost to the county would then, for general basic, our general fund would be $23,246. Then we've moved down to case management. Most of these are due to hiring a new case manager. We got salary, $30,667, FICA, $2,305, and IFRS, $2,691, for a total of $35,663. They don't have any revenue to offset that, so that's all expense. And then conservation capital, they're gonna do some, he called it mastic leveling of the Sauk Rail Trail. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but he's taking it from his capital reserves and putting it into his budget so he can get that project done. So total expenses, $95,909. Revenue to offset that, $22,000, so we're looking at $73,909 as the asking. Are there any questions? As I said, I didn't make any additions or changes to this from the first time.
Okay. You had any public comments concerning the budget amendment, Courtney? Okay. Are there any comments from the public? This is a public hearing on the proposed budget amendment. Virginia?
It's only 3 months into the budget, and this is quite a bit, but I don't see that you have any choice but to approve it, because most of this is after the fact. You're either already into the project, or you have told people to proceed. So you've already literally agreed to it.
All right. Any other public comments?
I've got a question, just real quick. Courtney, Justin was here last week, and he talked about maybe increasing his billable units, but we wouldn't have to amend for any increase in revenue, correct? Only an expenditure side. Okay. So it's likely he's gonna be bringing in some more revenue, but.
And I think it's good to amend for revenue though, because it does give you a better picture of where you're gonna be at. And it's kinda nice to offset expenses sometimes
Right.
with revenue, but technically no.
I won't be on the board then, but when we do our last amendment, it would be worthwhile to take a look at that revenue side and see what that's done.
Okay. All right. This is our second time reviewing this. We reviewed it very well earlier at our September 26th meeting, or excuse me, at our previous meeting, 12th. Carl was in to explain that, a few other things. Okay, anything else under the public hearing? Any other comments, questions from the public or the board? Okay, hearing none at approximately 10:15, I will close the public hearing on the budget amendment. Okay. Next step is to approve, to have the approval and certification of this budget amendment.
So moved.
I'll second it.
There's a motion that's been made and seconded for approval and certification of this county budget amendment we just discussed. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion is carried. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of an appropriations resolution. What this does is appropriate that money. Is there a motion to approve the appropriations resolution?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the appropriations resolution. It's by roll call vote. Courtney?
Bach?
Yes.
Beardmore?
Yes.
Shetler?
Yes.
Miners?
Yes.
Anzer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, that has been approved. Okay, I think that wraps up.
I do have that for signature.
Sign that. That takes care of our budgetary situation there. Mark, you have radio today and
Mhm.
everything?
Yeah.
You know, I realize now I need to print off a different one of these that has a place for your signature on the amendment. I'll do that right after the meeting if I could get your signature. on it.
Okay.
There's two forms and they
Okay.
are identical.
Is sheriff gonna come up, or
He was supposed to,
Well,
but he might have gotten.
let's go to item 8, since Carl's been waiting. I was gonna say patiently waiting, but you've just been waiting, haven't you?
He's been crossing his legs for a couple of minutes. He said patiently.
It's broken, I can't hear.
He said patiently waited, but he's been crossing his legs a couple times.
Yeah. I'll have to make sure I handle that first.
Morning, Carl.
That's
Good
quite,
morning.
that's quite the ordinance.
Carl.
You're here to talk about it.
The solar?
Solar, yeah.
I learned a few terms.
Did you?
Don't test me on it.
26 of them?
Yeah.
It was been quite a process for this solar power ordinance, and just a little background, I'm sure you know that Raccoon Valley REC is looking at putting in a solar farm somewhere. They've got 3 sites they're looking at, and I'm not sure where they're gonna go first, but so Jim Gossett's been in with the zoning commission for several months while we're working on this. Also, the zoning administrator from Sac County, because they're gonna be looking at the same type of issues, so she's been coming down to our meetings. And so this is kind of a joint effort between the 2 counties to kind of come up with something that is workable. Basically, what we did with this is looked at Lynn County and a model ordinance that was available through a national association on solar, which the city of Carroll, we found out later, adopted something very similar to the model ordinance. And then we pared it down. Our goal was to find something relatively simple, even though it's still 9 pages long.
Relatively.
We didn't want to get too restrictive, but, you know, the goal, of course, is to protect public and their property rights, you know, and we don't want somebody putting up something that's gonna offend the neighbor and yet allow for growth. Our comprehensive plan does mention the fact that we will make provisions for solar. It's actually specifically mentioned in state code and in our comprehensive plan, so this is a piece that's in line with that. So basically what we got here is a proposal from the zoning commission that sets up regulation for residential type of solar, solar garden, which would be more of a subdivision, group of houses that are together but not necessarily a public utility, and then utility scale, which is like REC would put in. Requires that a solar garden or a utility scale would go to the Board of Adjustment for a public hearing. REC project, maybe an acre to 2 acres. It's not a very big one, but utility scale could be 40 acres, you never know. So we just left that in there that would be a Board of Adjustment meeting, so that there'd be an opportunity for public comment. Sets the setbacks, where they can be located in different districts, and we think it's fairly comprehensive and yet not too restrictive. So hopefully we found that balance. But we need to set a public hearing for this, be an ordinance amendment. I think we're looking at 2 weeks, 10 o'clock. 10, oh boy.
What was
10,
that?
10, and
10, 10, 10.
10.
If you're not stuttering, I understood it all. October 10th at 10 a.m. is when you'd like to set the public hearing for that. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to have the public hearing for the solar power amendment to the Carroll County zoning ordinance at 10 a.m. on October 10th. Is there any discussion on that motion? When Marty and I were at the RVEC annual meeting, they talked a lot about this, and I actually contacted them and asked them if they were aware of this, and they said that, yeah, Carl kept them up to speed on the whole way, and they're okay with everything in here, is my understanding. So, well done on your communication, Carl. Okay, any other discussion on this?
You know, we can save it for that day, but I will publicly thank you and your zoning board. I know you put in countless hours on this thing. It's all new territory. And
It is.
You had a little bit of guidance with, you know, like this model ordinance and things like that, but it's still your banana, so.
Yeah, the Lynn County model and some of the other models were fairly restrictive and really detailed. And, you know, we kind of have the philosophy that, you know, we want to be able to meet our goal of protecting property rights, but at the same time, we don't need to get so restrictive that nothing can happen.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody can do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I will also note that our county attorney, did comment that it is in due legal and proper form. Okay, any other discussion
So
on the
thanks
motion
again.
to set the public hearing at 10 a.m. on 10/10? Okay, all in favor of the motion then, say aye.
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 Pose same sign. All right, that motion is carried.
I'll get the notices in the papers.
Thanks, Carl.
Pass along our thanks to
Thanks,
the
Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
zoning board.
Thanks, Carl.
A lot of work. Zero pay.
Okay. Let's move to the payables. Not an outstandingly large payable period by any means. Are there any specific ones that were of interest or question?
Driver's license expenditures, I saw.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Anniversary coins, I saw. Let's hope we sell $6,000. Right?
So, buy yours yet?
How's it going? Yeah.
Did you buy one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Encourage everyone to buy
I'm asking
the
everybody.
coins.
Yes, I am.
I just wanted to make a quick note. On page 2 of the payables for the budgeted ones, the one that's about 9 pages long, we did remove a bill for conservation. It's kind of in the middle of the page. It's to Chase Card Services for lodging, $559.80. That was not on the bill this month. This must have been just a day or two late, so we'll be paying that probably next month.
Okay.
But we took it out because they hadn't billed them yet for it, so they decided not to pay it in advance, just in case it might be a different amount or so. That's the change that I had.
I had no questions or anything else. If anybody else does, if no one sees otherwise, I'd make a motion to approve the payables.
Second that motion?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the payables. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion is carried. Discuss county home RFP, which Chris has put together for us. We have it in our packet, and he had emailed it up to us on, I believe, Thursday.
Yeah, this is different than what I've got in the email. The thing that he put in the email, I would just soon have this here shaded map that shows the property that's for sale too, and that, the one that he emailed didn't have that in there.
Okay.
There was like 3, 4 different maps on there.
Yeah.
But didn't have this one that showed the shaded area that we was planning on, it's that one.
Okay. All right, I think today we're gonna use the paper copy, is that right? As opposed to the email copy, because it's a hard copy.
Yeah, this is the final draft,
This
correct?
is the final.
This is
draft.
what was emailed to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he said that they are currently working on the maps and drawings for inclusions.
See, and I got them over the weekend.
Okay.
And
Well,
they
I
showed-
didn't print those out because I
Well-
don't have a color.
Well, here's the deal, I'm not expecting us to approve this today. What my expectation was us to hash over any issues we had with it and then send it to our county attorney. That was what I assumed our objective would be today. I think we agreed we wanted the county attorney to look it over after we had kind of vetted it ourselves.
And that's kind of my feeling. But the only thing I said is, the one that I got emailed did not have this shaded area, and I think, I would like to have that map in there too, I think.
Absolutely, okay.
How do we feel about the date? Did you get a chance to talk to Sherry?
Yeah, I'd be glad to share that information with you now. I just had it for committee report, but it'd be more appropriate at this time, I think. Yeah, after the meeting on Monday, I did contact Sherry, and there were some issues about the beds and nightstands and tables and chairs, informed her that. And they didn't really nail down a date any better. They're kind of sticking with that. They did say that as far as showing the place, Steve would assist in showing the building. He would expect us to have someone with each showing, someone from the county, and be by appointment only. The times that work best for Steve are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and 10 to 12 and 1 to 2. So, you know, they're reasonable and all of that. No, nothing changed as far as the date is concerned, so I think we're okay there. Because in our proposal, we aren't saying exactly, we're saying approximately. Or are you referring to the date that they get submitted?
Yeah, I was mostly concerned about the submittal date, just because that's, again, anybody that's gonna put in a submission is gonna wanna see it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know just how available, you know, the facility was gonna be to prospective bidders.
Yeah. Yeah, in our proposal, it says estimated at or near December 31st, so we gave ourselves a little play. I'm okay with that December
date's he looking
16th
at,
date.
Gene?
When the facility's constructed.
Oh,
He's got 76, 82, 85, 86.
That's right.
That is right?
85, 86.
76, 82, 85, 86.
Okay, I was for some reason thinking there was 2 of them in the 70s. All
So I
right.
thought one was 84, so I made.
No,
I
the
made a note of
east
that.
wing is the only one that's
Do you have an
76.
issue with that date or not?
No, I'm not, it just, it doesn't really say when we're gonna turn it over to them. But I don't know if that's something that can still be negotiated or what, but.
As it's given us a little wiggle room here, it says about the first of the year, basically. Without nailing us down specifically.
Right. It's kind of a two-edged question is, when can I go see it, and then when do I take possession of it?
Well, they can go see it anytime.
Yeah, but it
With
sounds
appointment.
like, yeah.
So that's found cooperation there, and I did forward that comment to Gene because he's the other person,
Right.
the other contact person.
We had a little bit of discussion about that the last time we talked about it. as far as having that wiggle room in there,
Mhm.
as far as the possession is concerned.
Is there anything in regards to that that our board thinks we should clarify or change? Or are we happy with
I
the way
don't
it
know how
is?
you can when they can't get a definite date from them.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
We're gonna have a very short window of knowing what we're going to do with the building, as far as what you're gonna accept or, and then to give them. How are we gonna get everything out of that building in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Because if they're gonna be out of, let's say they're out of there on New Year's Eve, you know, let's say everything works well and the 31st they're done. We've accepted the bids, the 16th. We don't have a lot of time to get our stuff out of there. And do we wanna move it ahead of time, not knowing if,
I have a comment to that
Okay.
too. Because Megan asked me at the Board of Health meeting, if we know we're moving, can she move when it's not snowing? You know, or, which is a good point. I mean, there's no point of, there's no pointing her, you know, and probably the same applies to what you're talking about, all that stuff in the basement down in there. I mean, we need to come up with an idea of what we're gonna do with that stuff, with the Herald, the papers, all that stuff.
Very good question. As far as Megan, and then we always have the danger that maybe we'll move everything and not have an acceptable proposal. But how do you position yourselves for the unknown? I think it would be a good idea, I'm glad you brought this up, to kind of put the wheels in motion for the homemakers and get that move going, so it's kind of at their pace. I'm glad you brought it up, Dean. And maybe anybody else have a better idea, that's fine, and get their phones and equipment, get moved in over there in the Fricky building, contact our realtor, take that off the market for rental property. And even if we don't get an acceptable proposal, moving forward, we can, at some point, something's gonna happen. So they're gonna have to move soon, at some point. I think we're determined not to own that building for a long time. And the danger of that is we could have a person who would be interested in giving us a very good lease for the top part, but not want the bottom, and they've moved for nothing, but that's not a big problem, I guess. We just have a different place for rent then.
I did do a little checking, and our current realtor listing expires on October 13th, so. you know, really-
It's only 2 weeks
I
away.
think
Yeah, I
I'll
mean-
just get a hold of Janelle and let it expire. Tell her not to.
Mhm.
Okay. As far as the other stuff, I think the big problem is, where do we move it to?
That's a big question. Yeah, absolutely.
Where is some storage available? Do we need to rent, buy?
Did you ever check what had to be kept out there?
Well, I talked to Linda upstairs, and everything out there, they have to keep. The stuff that is the treasures, I don't know, but our book for record retention is from like the 1970s. And so I was looking for something more current, because in the 70s, there was no such thing as electronic, or not like it is now. People didn't, you know.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if the rules have maybe changed a little bit on keeping things, and why do we get a copy of the Herald every quarter? And why are they there from the 19, you know, what, nobody can tell me why we have them.
The Heralds?
Yeah.
Aren't those for the publications, we have to keep those?
We already keep those. You know,
Then I don't know.
they bring over, you know, we bring those and attach them to the bills. That's what the state auditors look at when they're here.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Is there a resource at ISAC that might be beneficial?
I'm sure they probably does. I just need to call and find out. And I also need to go
I
back
would
out there
just
and
call,
make a list of what's there.
Harshburg was her first name.
Like maybe after hours, like,
Is it Lori?
I think, yeah,
I think it's Lori Harshburg, I'd call her down there.
I don't think it's Lori.
Is it Lori?
that last name sounds right though.
She's
Yeah.
legal. I'd check with state auditor. Would be another one.
I think sometimes, I mean, not just government, we're all just guilty of hoarding, you know, so for fear of throwing something out that might be important.
Right.
And,
My feeling is, I hope we can have the option to dispose of a lot of that. I think some of those bound copies of the paper and everything, some of those just have value to collectors and things like that too. So, I guess first of all, we need to determine what we need to keep and then where to keep it.
And I'd also like to go back out and make a list of what's there.
and Suite B still might have some available space, even if we do move public health or, you know, home health there. I mean,
There's a lot of stuff out there.
yeah.
And we still think that Christie, Hartsburger would be a good source there.
I'd like to find out what we have, because I don't want to say, what do we have to keep? I'd like to say, this is what we have, do we have to keep it? I think I'd get a more specific answer
Okay.
than what I have.
How about the stuff that's the responsibility of the court to keep, and we've been providing them space for that? Do we just inform them that it's their problem?
She's aware of it, and I'm not sure where it's gonna go, but she's aware that they'll need to take it somewhere.
We are required by law to provide them court space, so we're providing storage too, or not?
So, well, they have a room downstairs that's entirely theirs, so I would say yes. And I'm sure that stuff came from our basement.
Yeah.
And we moved it out there to make more room for other things downstairs.
Well, why don't you run that question by Christie also, and maybe they can assist us in some way there. I don't know where to go with it, actually. Do anybody here have a great idea?
Oh, I know.
You know,
I
we,
asked
we could check with
secondary
Dave. Roads would be another one.
Well, I asked Dave about that. He said no.
Okay.
He said they got every space filled, crammed full already.
Even that.
The sheriff's
Even the
storage
sheriff's
is-
got some space out
He's
there?
gone through too.
No. Wait, hoarding that too?
It's full, we gotta go out there and clean it out ourselves.
It's kinda like that room down in the basement.
It
that you
depends
guys
what,
had to clean
we're
out.
talking about maybe getting rid of that emergency management trailer that they'd got on a grant quite a few
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago that
remember that.
nobody ever uses, selling the equipment out of that and then, selling the trailer. So we'll have to see what that happens, but that takes up a lot of room. And then Zach was working on getting rid of the 20 Christmas trees that are out there that nobody uses. And they're still there, I don't know whatever happened with them.
Maybe we need a garage sale.
That guy, when he retired, he put
This
him out
coin
there.
thing doesn't pan out.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to see it turn into more hoarding out there.
Well, and just another thing that I was thinking about when Courtney was talking about, you know, the 2-week time
And
frame.
Christmas is in there too.
Maybe we need to, and you kind of hit on it too, when we're gonna be able to let them know.
Forecast some kind of available day.
So, yeah, maybe it's January 1, or maybe it's 30 days after the day that they actually relinquish them. You know, something like that, that would give us some time. I don't know, it's just a thought that I had. But you're right, 2 weeks ain't very much time if we're going to let them do that. you know.
I mean, to move all that, and then, you know, to have a holiday in there too.
Yep. And it's winter.
Realistically, I would think that anybody who require that building, if they know ahead of time that, hey, we're gonna be moving things out of the basement while you're working upstairs, there's a lot of room out there to work. I can't imagine them saying, no, we gotta get in the basement right away. You know, so as far as the 2 weeks, that could hopefully be stretched a little bit. But still, we don't have an answer as to, we didn't have a storage trailer, you know, we don't have any place to go with that. I don't know if someone like Secure Shred stores things, sounds like,
Why don't they look at maybe a container solution or something?
yeah, you know.
I was thinking about that too, a container
What about
solution.
short-term storage? If you would ever move on the jail, then there could be space downstairs in the basement to become available
Trucker with a freezer
after
trailer.
they vacate it.
We can have heat vents.
I'm with you too.
Yeah.
Buying it, I think if you're more interested, absolutely renting something for a short period. Or maybe the current building they're in, maybe we can work out a lease for that building and leave it set there until.
Individual storage is really short in Carroll. I mean, it's really.
But they have those pods that they'll deliver to your place. and
Yeah,
you can just
I mean,
put
that's
it
what
in.
they're talking about, container.
A freezer trailer's not that expensive if we need to.
A what? A reefer
Free-
trailer?
Yeah, reefer trailer.
I guess that's what
Very cheap.
thought came
Yep.
to my mind.
Isn't
a reefer
expensive.
trailer.
You know, you can buy them for $5,000 or a good one.
Oh, more or less.
Yeah,
And then you can move them
But
around.
are they airtight?
yeah,
Okay.
oh, yeah, gotta be.
We have 3 of them. They're cost us about $2,500 each, and it's been a few years ago. We still store stuff in them and
Yeah.
keep them very well.
And then you can always sell it. It's gonna have some value after you
Yeah.
finish it.
And that's something you could probably move out to secondary road and put it way back in the back. And
Sure.
Yeah.
it would function fairly well out there out of his way.
And they got a semi, they can move it around.
There's no
Yeah,
semis in the
yeah.
county.
Yeah,
I
no,
have
all
to
you
hire
do
a
is buy a
trailer or a
trailer.
tractor. They have to have a
Yeah,
tractor.
Yeah.
I think I know a guy that's got one.
They're around.
Yeah, I could say one of mine, but Jorgensen's is where we got ours, and also Matt Wendell's has got containers
He's
that
got
he
those
sells too,
containers,
which
yeah.
accomplishes the same thing.
A little harder to move those. but-
Yeah. A lot easier to get in and out of there lower.
Right, that's true.
So apparently, we need to find out what we need to keep. That will determine the square footage or the amount of storage we need. And I don't think it'd be too difficult if we can find a reasonable place to get a semi-trailer or a container to park it in. Is this something you need to have access to, or is it, have you ever?
I've never been out there in 7
You've never
years.
been out there?
No, I can't say, I know Linda had said that she had went out there, but it'd been a long time ago. So she might have different needs than I or Jean does.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they send people out for genealogy to go out there too and look on their own, don't they?
I haven't talked to Marilyn because I didn't see any recorder stuff out there, but there probably is. It was so dirty back there, I didn't want to call back in there.
All right, we got this as estimated to cease operations December 31st. That's the date we're talking about. Could we put a sentence in our possession to be January 30th?
You know, I wouldn't put that in there. I would see the proposal, and it could be where they would really like to get in there January 1st, even if they can't get in the whole thing. So I wouldn't set anybody back a month, because there might be something they wanted to get into right away. But we need to be flexible there. Because all that stuff in the basement's not gonna get moved out overnight. That's a big job.
So you're kinda saying let the best proposal tell us when they would like to get in, and then we can determine.
As this RFP reads, if we are fortunate enough to get a handful of proposals, we can approach the best one and negotiate, or try to negotiate the details, which would involve that. And if there are people we can work with, if we can't work out at all, maybe the second proposal would be the best one,
Yeah, I think sometimes, maybe we're overthinking this thing too much. I think you're right, it's just a proposal, we're getting our best, offer thrown at us, and we can work from there.
I just brought it up only because I suspect you're gonna get some question on it. I mean, I'm gonna know when do I get it?
We have an opportunity on Thursday to kick this idea around also at our strategic planning meeting. Maybe some other people in the department heads will have some good ideas as well. So let's kick this around Thursday as well at our strategic planning meeting. And be thinking ourselves, when we find out how much stuff we have to keep, where we'll keep it. And another option I'm thinking about is the city's gonna be doing a lot of moving around too with the bank and their building and the library that may free up some storage space with the city if we could cooperate with them to store some stuff on their property possibly. I don't think that's out of the question anyway. Okay. Anything we need to decide in particular on this today? And I think the most important thing we need to do is have a discussion with Megan on this. Have her go and look at the Fricky building and size that up for her operations and get an idea how long it would take her to move. That sound reasonable? Okay. And then we'll bring this up for discussion Thursday at our strategic planning meeting and solicit more ideas from other people. And then next meeting, I think we should put this back on the agenda to make some decisions on whether we're gonna give Megan the green flag for moving and if we've had any better ideas for storage. Now, get back to the RFP, the copy we have here. Are we ready to send this to John for his study and opinion?
I think so, because whatever we change, there's not gonna be nothing drastically.
Yeah, I'm thinking everything that we're talking about here is outside of the proposal pretty much.
I would say we send it to him, get it done.
Yeah, I agree. The only problem that I had was with section 5. And proposals must be fully responsive, and this is just a thought that I had. Responsive to the requirements described in section 3 and to the subsequent request for clarification or additional information by the county. Proposals failing to comply with the submission requirements and those unresponsive to any part of the solicitation may be disqualified. I would hate to have the best proposal like we have get kicked out.
Well,
a little bit clarification.
Was there
but I
anything
mean-
in section 3 that you would not want for her that?
No, but I mean, I'm just saying that if there's something that they would, that they were unclear about and they omitted or something like that, I mean, I just,
But don't tell, like, if we have a question, if they will answer it for us. If they don't answer it, then we can disqualify them. So I mean, if they're upfront and they answer any questions we have,
yeah, even if it's not on here.
yeah.
Even if they miss something here.
As long as they're responsive to us, then there's not an issue.
Then that would cover that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't see no problem with it.
Okay.
I don't either.
You just say may.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and
May.
it's possible the best proposal might be something we don't want.
Sure. Nope, otherwise, that's the only question that I had, so otherwise, I'm good with that.
I'd say let's go send it to John for his approval.
Yep.
Would be good.
Okay, is there a motion to send this proposal to John for his study and approval or synopsis, whatever?
I'll make a motion to approve it, to send it to the county attorney.
Second.
Okay, it's been second to send this RFP to the county attorney for his study and recommendations. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, let's vote then. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carried.
Would you like me to do that?
I'd appreciate that, Courtney. Just send it to him. And then, Dean, would you like to, you're on that board with Megan, aren't you? You want to contact her and have her kind of scout out the Fricky building, because we're thinking about getting that going earlier.
Yeah, I can go over there with her sometime.
And we haven't made a decision, and we're gonna talk about it, tell her we're gonna talk about it on Thursday and get her up to speed on that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all we need to. Anything else on that RFP that we need to follow up on? Okay, all right, thank you, Courtney and Dean, for doing that. Okay, next we've got, let's go back up to item number 7, which is the vehicle bids for the sheriff. Sheriff Pingree, good morning.
Good Monday morning, everybody.
Good morning, Ken.
Taking bids for a new vehicle, and we sent out the spec sheets. Got a bid back from Champion Ford, New Way Ford, and Whitrock Motor Company. Motor in, when we specify SUV. The only thing they can bid is a Tahoe, so they usually don't send one back. So these are the 3 bids we've got. There's a spec sheet if anybody wants to see it. Just bidding a 2017 SUV. Police package, and the low bid with trade-in of another Explorer was $17,921 through New Way Ford.
How much was it?
17,921.
$17,921.
And that's with trade?
Yes.
And what
That
are
was the lowest bid?
Yes.
And what are we trading there?
2012, I believe.
2013, it says here.
2013 Explorer.
With how many miles on it?
100,000 roughly.
What were the other bids?
Champion came in at 18,520. And Wet Rocks came in at 22,458.
You said New Way.
New Way,
Yes.
Twin Rapids.
And when was delivery on that?
We haven't ordered it yet. I just wanted to run this by you. We just got the bids back last
Okay.
Wednesday. So.
And how much more is gonna be under for lights and sirens?
The nice part about this vehicle, we're going Explorer to Explorer, so most of the equipment should switch over.
It should.
Yep,
Usually that's where a big surprise comes in.
it does, it does. We're gonna put a new radio in it. That's already bought and paid for through 911. Hopefully the lights will all transfer, they should, the cage, all the other equipment. Should just swap right over. And we've been working with John and Kyler Reesberg up there, Reesberg Detailing. They're gonna set up the police department ordered 2 Explorers, and they're gonna do their installation work up there, and we've been working with them quite a bit on some stuff, so hopefully that's
Good
what
for
we're gonna
you.
do. So
Yeah, I think
they
you've
do a
been
good
getting
job.
hammered over there.
I agree, I agree. Now, the last car we had done, everything was new in it, so,
Right.
and I explained that to you, but it'd be so handy if they could do it and get into the
Right.
business, and
Yeah.
I know we've sent a Wheeling light rep out there to talk to them, and anything they need to order that they have questions about, he can take care of it for them, so
Yeah.
it'd be very convenient for us.
Yeah, Dean Karstens did a lot of them for the city, and of course now he's retired,
Yep.
but it's nice to have a local vendor do that.
Yeah, well, John worked up at Toynes for years doing this, so,
Right.
and they're both pretty handy.
Real quick, the Champion bid was for a 17 Explorer and the Witch Rock one was Dodge.
Whit Rock one was a Dodge Durango, yes.
Both 17s.
Yes, all of them 17.
Okay. Obviously, are you gonna recommend the lowest price?
I am.
Okay. There's no reason to consider one of the other ones for any other options or anything?
I'm happy with it.
Okay, very good.
I'd make a motion to accept the low bid of $17,921 with New Way Ford for the new SUV for the sheriff's department.
I will,
Go ahead.
I will second that.
All right, a motion was made and seconded to approve the bid on the new sheriff vehicle with New Way Ford. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I will abstain.
Okay, motion carries. 4 ayes for 1 abstention. All right, anything else, Sheriff?
Nothing. We will see you at the strategic planning meeting.
Very good.
So,
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks for calling, Mary and Friday.
no problem, no problem. That was, got that taken care of. Good.
Have a good week, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
See you guys.
Okay, next is the Class B beer license requested for an event at Swan Lake. Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Okay. Everything appeared to be in order.
It's my understanding it's a one-day fundraising event.
You know what it's fundraising for?
Cancer, it's a cancer benefit.
Yeah, that's what I understand, it's a cancer benefit.
I seen a sign on the way up, that's what I was wondering.
there any questions? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to approve the permit license.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Class B beer license for this event. Any discussion on that motion? No vote, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And state board. And they did change the date.
Date's probably not right, I guess.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. I just
All over?
got it.
Got it all over, huh?
It should be right.
You got it.
Hazardous duty.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we have a tax suspension, and there's one person named on here.
Yeah, this individual had no means to, because I said normally we get these, in the spring or late summer, or early summer, and this person had no way of getting here. That was the excuse that I got. They were eligible both this year and last year and didn't do anything, so the taxes were paid in full last year, and technically they were eligible to have them suspended last year as well, but they didn't get up here in time. And they are only requesting the current taxes be suspended. And I made it very clear to them that in the future, we need these in the spring, and they can be mailed. They don't have to make a special trip to Carroll to drop this off, so hopefully this, in the future, we won't have issues like this, but this person is eligible. It's a reduction. Property is in Coon Rapids, the city of $934 is the full year tax. So they would not, of course, not get that. But
And this, again, was approved by DHS, right?
correct, that's where the paperwork comes from, is DHS, and then I could call over there and just confirm it with them, and of course, it's always okay, but, so, they were requesting for 2016, so.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Or is
Is
there
that
a motion?
is that 100% tax
Yeah,
suspension?
whenever
Now,
property's
remember,
sold,
Dean,
they'll
these,
pay it
yeah,
back.
When they
whenever
sell
the
the property.
property's sold, then we get the tax.
We get the tax at that
Yeah, so
time.
they're
And they're not
just sus-
forgiven.
They're
They're
just
just-
They're just
suspended for the time
suspended.
being.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the word suspension is a little bit misleading.
Yeah, it's not an abatement, it's a
It's a
suspension.
Okay, gotcha.
Is there a motion to approve this tax suspension request?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax suspension for this
I'll second
individual.
that motion.
That motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, then we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Both same sign. Motion is carried.
Like a stamp on that too, please.
Okay. Severe weather emergency closing discussion. This was brought to our attention last meeting to look at. We decided to put it on the agenda for this meeting. We've all had an opportunity to look at it. Are there any thoughts as far as whether we should approve or not approve this change of policy? Primarily, the change is under conditions where the courthouse is deemed to be closed. Some people requested to have it changed so that they would get paid as opposed to use any of their leave or that type of thing. Thoughts? We're not required to take action on it. If no action is taken, the current policy will remain in effect. But in order to change it, we would have to approve that.
Do we know what other courthouses are doing?
They vary.
They do vary.
Some will pay, I can't remember what county it was. It's in northern Iowa. wouldn't make them take a vacation day as long as they were able to make that time up before the end of the pay period. So whether it be working an evening, a couple evenings to make it up, I guess they allowed for that.
Oh, they allow flexible time then?
Yeah, but it had to be within the pay period. You know, our pay period's 10 days, and if you had a snow day on the last day of the pay period, you would have that opportunity to be able to make it up. And it would be kind of hard to keep track of. So, I don't know if I'd recommend that, just based on the work we do here in the courthouse. Now, this doesn't apply to people that do get a lot of extra time, like secondary roads or the sheriff's office, so I don't know.
One thing I would think is, we have, for example, Renee Von Borken. Before we approve anything, I would like her to look it over for her thoughts on it. And if we ask her to look it over, she's one, would want a sense of direction from us. So if we said, well, we would like to approve this, but we're hesitant, what do you think? Or whatever, if we want to make any changes, I would prefer to run it by someone like her for her thoughts.
You're talking.
Yeah.
Renee?
Renee.
Yeah, Renee.
Renee.
And I missed that, I didn't.
She would only tell us that it's our authority,
Okay.
that we're under full authority. I mean, legally wise.
But she might have an idea of how the rates would, how they set that up, about paying or not paying, though.
Well,
might
she
give
works
some
with a
idea.
limited number of counties now these days, though, too.
Okay.
I mean, she could certainly give me an opinion, but I mean, she's gonna charge you for the opinion,
Yeah.
too, but.
Yeah, she would.
um,
And obviously, if the board wants to take no action on it, the.
Well, there's another way we can do is go to the ISAC website, get her to do a survey too.
Did a little bit of a survey with private sector businesses here in town with the major employers, and there's nobody that offers such policy in the private sector.
Do they have anything enforced if, let's say they go to work and they close the facilities like 2 hours early or 3 hours early, and they send everybody home because of weather? Do they have anything in place for something like that?
No.
When they're already actually at work?
I told Courtney that I wasn't really in favor of it, and here's why. You know, here, about 7 years ago, when we revised the employee handbook, we shrunk down we have currently up to 20 days of vacation, paid vacation, and we use the term vacation inaccurately. It doesn't have to be used for vacation. It can be used to backfill situations such as this, or if you're out of sick days, or if you're out of bereavement days, or you can use the days at your discretion, okay?
The term that they usually call is personal days.
Yeah, I really wish we would
Field
just,
days.
like a lot of, again, private sectors, we're making the change, we're just calling it paid time off, you know, and grouping it all together. But, you know, we used to have an unlimited amount of vacation days, and we still have a couple of employees that are grandfathered in that literally are unlimited in terms of the handbook. And then we shrunk that down. You know, most of the members of this board shrunk that down to not to exceed 20 days or 4 weeks. But what we did is we allowed to get to the maximum sooner as an exchange. And to me, I guess what I'm saying is we're already allowing 20 days plus the 9 paid holidays, plus bereavement, and plus, you know, everything else, that the sick days. All we'd be doing is adding to that when we just decreased it 6.5, 7 years ago. So
Okay.
it's not gonna happen very often, but I'm just saying that the allowance is already available to the employee.
This year, since I've been chairperson in January, we did have 2 such days where we closed the courthouse. Looking back, the one was a good call, and the second one was probably not a very good call at all, because the weather really straightened up shortly after we made the call.
You don't
And
know
then,
that, though.
I
No,
could-
that's just-
I could say defensively, I could say, well, I'm not a meteorologist, and I did consult with the current sheriff and the engineer at that time, and relied heavily on their recommendation. But, and here's I've heard from both sides. Some people says, well, I was here, I made it to the courthouse, and now I have to take a time paid, I have to burn up a day of vacation just because you closed the courthouse. So there was that issue. I know sometimes on these things, people have a different opinion because of where they live, and everybody decides whether they want to live close to their residence, or if they drive a long ways, it's more difficult. But that's their choice, where they live and what they drive and that type of thing. I don't know, I'm leaning towards Mark's side, because I do think that we have very good benefits, and if y'all looked at your sheet you got, or just in your last pay period, see what your benefits are in addition to the salary. We do have very good benefits, so I don't know, it's a tough decision. I'm looking for input.
Well, just looking at all employees are scheduled to work, not already otherwise on vacation, personal leave or leave or other leave. Those that are on vacation, or, I mean, it's not fair to them either, that they're ready.
That's just luck of the draw.
That's the luck of the draw.
I think, you're scheduled to
Sure.
be off.
I guess I had a discussion with Courtney about this as well, and in the current policy, must use their accrued vacation or comp. I guess if I was gonna be flexible, I'd be flexible on that.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, it's not, they wouldn't have to.
they wouldn't have to be used.
They could just take a day off.
They could just take a day off. Otherwise, you're asking them to take either vacation day or comp time.
Yeah, and
If they chose not to.
It says or leave without pay, though. It says or leave without pay.
yeah, so if a person has very little vacation,
Okay, yeah.
Or leave without pay.
Okay. Your first point.
Okay, so it is in there.
Your first
Okay.
point, Dean, if someone's on vacation and then the courthouse gets closed, that doesn't change.
Either way.
Neither,
Yeah.
either way, they're still on
Still the
vacation
same,
and they don't
yeah.
get that day
Right.
back. So we're not even gonna talk about that.
Yep.
But I think the other one, and one of the issues I heard is, hey, I've not been here that long, I don't have hardly any vacation built up, I'm trying to save it up so I can take vacation, now you're taking one away from me and I was here. I guess they got the option to leave without pay, which,
Yeah, I guess I looked at that, I probably didn't read far enough, I guess, to leave without pay.
yeah, it's highlighted on mine, but, okay. All right,
I'm not crazy about the paid thing myself. I mean, I think we got enough vacation days or sick leave. If nothing else, use sick leave or something else.
And your
Well,
vacation.
sick leave has to still be, it's gotta be for sick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I was gonna be flexible, that's what I would say you can use it for that day.
Your
You're still
vac-
paying them then.
I know, but at least it's coming off that time.
Your vacation or your personal time off, can you break that down by the hour, or do you have to take the whole 8-hour period off?
It's up to the department head.
Okay, so if you wanna close at 1 o'clock, or you decide you're gonna shut it down, then they have the option of using 4 hours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
all right, here's the deal. We had this brought before us, they wanted us to consider it, we've considered it. Is there any motion to move forward? If not, we'll just, no action, everything stays the same. Is there a motion to do any action or proposal or move forward in any respect on this? Okay, all right.
Okay, I'll just work back to them and let them do what the board decided.
It goes without changing it. Okay. Thank you, Courtney. Okay. 14, resolution for interfund transfer. This has to do with restocking our local option sales tax.
This is our principal amount of the tip money. So, and you probably saw the interest portion in the bills for the claims.
Yeah, there was 12,000, I believe.
Yeah.
ICP.
Yep, so we need to do a transfer to get it out of the increment financing fund and move it to local option.
Is that all ICP money, though? Is it, we don't have anything else remaining?
We don't have any other county tips.
Maple River, all of that?
That's,
done.
Maple River and Mount Carmel, we do that in July.
Yeah.
And we do it for the whole year, so we don't have to do one every single month.
I don't know why I don't remember that, but it's, yeah, so that's all ICP.
Correct.
Yeah, good.
We'll
But
get
this
another one in March.
55, that includes the 12,000 that was in?
No, it does not.
Does not, so that will we have to do another interfund transfer for
No,
that?
The principal, we transfer the principal, and the interest, we actually write a check and deposit it into local option.
Okay,
So,
okay,
principal goes in and transfer, and the interest is a check.
okay.
So then Jean will receive that $12,000 check in the local option, and this will be a transfer.
Okay.
It'll be 67, I can't remember exactly the amount.
That's fine. I'll make a motion to approve the interfund transfer.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution for interfund transfer in the amount of $55,204.02. Any discussion on that motion?
I understand it, I can't explain it.
Just moving money around, Mark, we all do it. Okay, we'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Bach?
Yes.
Beardmore?
Yes.
Shetler?
Yes.
Miners?
Yes.
Danzer?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank
Get
you.
some signatures on that, just the first page.
Notice I turned this one over when I was up here, because somebody sat up here. Because that is private, that is confidential.
It's confidential, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, manure management's next on the agenda. We have 4 of them. The first one is Prestige Farms, and they didn't check whether or not they had any changes, but I saw no changes, so I'm assuming that is no changes, even though that box wasn't clearly checked. The next one is MT Pork, Section 27 in East Township, no changes there. Third one is Kennebec Farms, Section 13, Roselle Township, no changes there. And the last one is Hintersite, Section 1 of Lincoln Township, which is in Audubon County. They've changed crop rotation or optimum yields and are using manure analysis. So those are our 4 manure management plans. Okay, now time for committee reports. Who would like to start? Mark, do I see you raise your hand, or?
You did.
Would you like to start?
By lack of default, I sure will. Monday was a Child Care Center Board meeting, very busy meeting. After reviewing all the finances and established the quality rating, report came back okay. You know, they always find small, but for the most part, was all reapproved. There hasn't been any discussion about the sale of the KC building lately, so we don't know where that stands. The staffing continues to be an issue. They have availability for 4 full-timers and 2 part-timers. There was also more discussion about a dismissal of, with a family that chose to leave. And let's see, other items included, did I mention approval of financials? That was on Monday. Then on Wednesday, Neil and I attended the Coalition of Human Services. And the program was put on by, it's a family, it's their child care referral. There's a better name for it. Child Care Resource and Referral, thank you. And it was interesting because I'd just been at the Monday child care meeting, and they talked about this testing that they're requiring now. It's 12 hours of testing by any of the teachers, and the amount of overtime that is causing because it's 12 hours worth of training. And once again, it's one of those legislative actions that has great intent with sour outcomes. So it's just not going over very well. It's hard to get people to, do it on weekends and stuff like that, so. But a very full membership there, man. There was, there was 17 different units there that was represented. So, anything else to add on that?
Okay.
Pretty much it. And then just this week, I've got a very quiet week. I've got just the planning session on Thursday, of which I may have to abbreviate. I'm waiting for a call from the doctor, so. Find
And
out.
you have radio and newspaper.
And
this
radio,
week.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Dean?
Okay, yeah, it was kind of a busy week for me. Well, actually, I got a couple of committee reports I have to report on, and the first one was the Conservation Board meeting on the 12th. And the big thing was the cabin proposal. So that was one of the big things. Frank Gredeman and Brett Ashed are looking to building an open shelter at Houlihan Access in memory of Frank's son who passed away. So that project will probably go forward. The discussion on this slurry project for the trail, that I think they're actually looking for another bid. This company had talked to, I think Jason had talked to him about it, and they said they couldn't do it because it was too busy. But then they must have they're caught back up again, and so that's why this came.
So they resubmitted another bid?
No, this
Oh.
is the original one.
Oh.
But I mean, this is, but it sounds like a good thing. I mean, it sounds like it's really gonna take care of a lot of the issues on that paving, or in that blacktop. Any kind of cracks or anything like that, they're gonna seal them up, and it does a really good job. So I think they were okay with that. But they're looking for another bid for that. I think that's it for conservation. Then we had a visit with Ed Smith on last Friday, or last Monday afternoon. That would have been on the 19th. And that conversation went very well. Looking for now. Geez, I thought I had all the stuff in order, but I simply can't find it. On probably, I guess we had this discussion, it's probably here. We had this discussion at our board, I'll kind of throw both of them together because they do kind of intermingle. At a Board of Health meeting on Tuesday night. This is I got a couple of handouts here. This one is Ed and I had this discussion about how they look at the Board of Health financially. There are some things on there, and I would say.
Figured all of that in there.
Well, because they're figuring it with FTEs of 2.5 or 4.5. I think what they're figuring is that, and they do use other staff, they do use their staff. But then there's also compensation, they don't put in there that there's public health, the public health nurse also reciprocates that as well. And there's also the indirect costs right here, that come up to this amount with that kind of results.
But don't they also have the public health nurse at 100% in here, when we know that she's contributing about 50% to them?
Right.
Okay.
So I think that's the one thing you want to look at is the salaries, and also the indirect costs. The indirect costs down there, and Ed did say this, he says, well, those are going to be incurred regardless of whether we have public health or not. So that kind of skews that bottom number. So that was a good thing. And then at the public health meeting, we did get an annual evaluation, and this would have been from July 1st of 2015 to June 30th of 2016. So this is kind of a evaluation of home health. This is St. Anthony's Home Health, Hospice, and then public health. So there's some reading there. If anybody wants to make copies of that, they can do that. My opinion of this whole process at this point in time is that I don't think we're going to back away from this, but what it has really done is it has made some people more accountable. We never had this before. It is a little bit clearer, but numbers are numbers, and you can skew those numbers any way you want to. So according to one of the Board of Health members, they said, geez, it looks like Carroll County is getting a pretty good deal. Well,
Did you
also-
show them these numbers?
Also, what you need to, and this is one thing that our board chairman pointed out, was the fact that she would sure like to see the Medicare accountability that goes with this, in that, St. Anthony's does benefit by having a negative balance on public health.
For funding.
For funding,
Mhm.
for Medicare funding. So, I mean, it's,
So you're saying they benefit by showing us $83,000 loss that they get it
Yes.
recouped later on through grants or whatever,
through Medicare funding.
through Medicare funding.
Which encourages them to increase their indirect costs, which is like 75,000 in there, which they would incur anyhow.
Sure.
See, like with case management, we're limited to that 23%. So it doesn't matter. They can only help you so much. They're not.
One of the things that the board chairman and I discussed too was, I mean, I don't think we're gonna let this thing die by any means, but I don't know if how hard we're gonna push at this point in time. And this goes back to going to Jasper County and how they did this whole reconstruction thing, because they had to. But they had a board that was very engaged and held very accountable for what they were doing. And on the morning of the Board of Health meeting, I asked Megan to give me this report, and I think we have to have a board that's more engaged than that before we can move forward and press ahead. So, other than that, I don't think there was a lot on as far as public health is concerned. I think we're getting better results. I can pass a lot of stuff around here. I think we're getting better accountability from the public health department, as far as immunizations and stuff like that. So I think this process has helped in the fact that it's up the level of accountability. So I guess going forward, we'll have to see if that continues. On Thursday, then, we had the 50th anniversary meeting. And I think we're getting pretty close, wouldn't you say, Courtney, as far as really kind of wrapping things up there?
Basically got the program done.
Yeah, we got the program pretty well complete. It should take about 45 to 48 minutes, 50 minutes maybe, things, of course, hopefully the weather will be good that day. That's about all you can ask for. I had planned on going, let's see, is that it? Well, I talked to you about Megan and Mallardview. And yeah, I think that's it. I had planned on going to the St. Anthony groundbreaking, but I had something else come up that I couldn't go to that. So I would encourage, everybody to buy their coins. Yep. This week, strategic planning meeting on Thursday.
All right, thank you, Dean.
Okay. Tuesday I had CADC, wound up kind of being a short meeting. There wasn't a whole lot. They went through kind of things kind of quickly. Probably the biggest thing was that some of the technology and different seminars that, or not seminars, but conventions she's been to where they interassociate with different businesses and prospects, and they've been very productive. Right now, they've got 4 major projects that they're working on. One they may even go out to visit. So there is some stuff going on there. I showed the unemployment for Carroll County was at 2.4 a year ago, now it's currently at 3.1. She talked about the different shows she went to and stuff like that, and I think that was basically about it. But it was kind of went through it pretty quickly there through that day. And then on Thursday, I was at the groundbreaking ceremony up at St. Anthony's, their new assisted living. It was a very short, sweet, nice program. Sounds like it's gonna be the place to be, because they're gonna have their own pub. So, it doesn't do any good for the people that don't drink, though. And then this week, I have a policy council on Tuesday, and then Thursday, the planning session, and then at 4 o'clock, I have a board meeting at New Opportunity, so I hope that planning session don't go too long. I'll have to be out there, so. That's my week.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay. Wednesday, I went down up to Region 12, signed checks out there. Thursday, I got the request on the Level C road from the landowner down south of Dedham. Also looked at a siltation issue on Drain 23 with Dick Werneman. I had a landowner approach me about that last week over in Glidden. And then on Friday, solid waste, I got a call from Mary Wittry. The sheriff's department was gonna have a private entity use the shooting range for testing the silencers on guns. And we cannot open the gates on that landfill on a Saturday without somebody being there from the landfill. So Ken Pingree had talked to Mary, and they found another place to have that. And that's all I had last week. This week, depending on weather, I don't know if I will make strategic planning meeting on Thursday or not. We'll see how things go. Sunshine, we're gonna combine beans.
Supposed to have it all week, aren't you?
Yep.
Supposed to be a nice week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the way it likes to rain, you
Yep.
need to get out there.
All right, thank you, Marty. All right, on Monday, I had communication with Sherry at Mallard View as far as seeing if Steve would cooperate and everything, and I pretty well shared that with you. We're getting great cooperation from him. Tuesday, had a CP, Community Partnership for Protecting Children, had a meeting. The only agenda item there was to approve the DCAT plan, which we did that on Tuesday, got that taken care of. And then on Wednesday, along with Mark, I attended the Coalition for Human Services, and Carol Jensen, as Mark said, talked about the child care resource and referral. And the reason that people like the daycare center do comply with these different testing and everything is because if they don't, they won't get any referrals from companies like this, and they won't make the DHS list for approved daycare centers. So if they don't cooperate with that, they kind of get, they don't get very much exposure on that. And Mark explained the rest, but it was, had a lot of participation with a lot of members there. Okay. Thursday, along with Gene, attended the Garden View opening, and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds also spoke there. And I think 3 key things that we kept hearing in different ways from different people is how this is going to be economic development. It's going to be a new tax-paying facility. It's going to provide a tremendous service. And that was the second thing, is that it really shows how we care for our elderly. And that was mentioned several times. And also, it was also mentioned several times how this will help out our housing situation. And when we had the housing study, this is one thing that showed, that we needed housing for
Yeah.
people in assisted living. And also, we recognize that having assisted living will open up homes in the community as these people migrate from their homes to this 36-person facility. So I think those 3 points, along with others, were very important, very significant, and very beneficial. Okay. Then on Friday, we had the second judicial district regular board meeting. That was held in Webster City. The most important things, we went over the budget, and I know we had some issues with our budget, and this was caused because our amount of money we've been getting from the state has stayed the same for 4 years, and yet every year we're required to have increased expenses in insurance and in payroll, just because salaries are going up. So that has been causing us some issues. This year, we've had some very good things happen. First of all, the state did give us a $50,000 supplemental payment, which is greatly appreciated. And then we've had a lot of purchase of services, and this comes from 2 sources, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and also just increased usage people do pay when they go to jail. So that income is increased quite a bit. And it looks like we're going to have an estimated 281,000 carryover from FY16 to fiscal year 18, or 17 to 18. So that is very good. The governor's going to determine our budget basically in January of this year, and then we expect our union settlement to be in April, so that's kind of in reverse order what we'd like to have it. But financially, it was pretty darn good news. Another thing we discussed is we're renting a facility in Marshalltown from the Masonic Temple, and the rent is quite expensive. We also own some land in Marshalltown, and we're looking at the possibility of putting up our own building there as opposed to paying rent. And this is just in the putting a business plan to decide whether that's the right move or not. No decisions have been made there as yet. And then we approve some contracts and that type of thing. Also, after the regular board meeting, then we had a executive committee meeting, which I'm a part of as well. And the purpose of that was to have the director's performance evaluation for Director Amanda Milligan. We had 2 sets of surveys go out, one to the board members and one to some of the upper level employees, and to get a synopsis of what they think her performance is or how it can be improved. And all of these surveys come back very, very well. And we're very fortunate to have a good director who's really got a lot of respect among her peers, and it helps us run a very good board meeting as well. So those are my 2 meetings on Friday. Saturday, I did just a little bit of research. Dean had brought this up about Region 5 wanting to get more money, and I don't have a lot of information, but I did find an audit that we had got back from them for the year ending in June of 2015. And it shows a cash and balance of $159,000 it's carrying over. And they only ask $134,000 from the different counties each year. Technically, if they ask for no more money from any of the counties and everything else stayed the same, they'd only be about $30,000 short. So there's a lot more to it than this, Dean, but I just want to give you this page of that because you brought it up and you asked for our opinion, and with the little bit of information I could find on Saturday, and I think that full is on the top. That's where the full audit is up there.
Okay.
But this is, and I don't know if that's the facts yet today. I'm totally not in favor of increasing any contribution to that. Obviously, something has changed, and if there is, why don't you let us know what it is,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll
Yep.
have different.
I'll get a hold of Peg this week.
I
I
talked
was
to
gonna
another.
have the discussion this
I
week.
talked to another supervisor about this on Friday. He says, well, gee, they haven't upped their rates for years and years and
23
years.
years or something,
And I
yeah.
says, but the rates are about twice as much as anybody else in this business, so I hope they haven't raised them, so. That's not the end of the story, but it's
Sure.
certainly some information that I would like to have addressed as we do this.
forward,
And,
yeah.
and then, also had some communication with, Rick Hunzaker regarding our, meeting on Thursday, and he had a specific question. He says, Neil, is there anything specific that you want us to accomplish at our meeting on Thursday? And, so I shared that question with the rest of the board, and, throw the question out there now. I told him I could probably answer this, but I want a board. And I says, and he said, that's fine, he'd like an answer today if we could. Is there anything specific that you want him to address or accomplish at our meeting here on Thursday? That was his specific question. What do you want to accomplish at our meeting on Thursday?
I don't know, I just kinda went through the format, kind of the summary that he sent out, I got an email of that the other day.
Mhm.
Just had a chance to kinda go through that, and the big things on there, the Mallard View issue, and the DOT licensing station with the CDLs, with the motorcycles and CDLs was the other things, those are the two things that really stood out in my mind.
Well, I think what we need to do is, I'm assuming this is probably the last meeting we're gonna have for a while.
I think so.
And I would say what we need to do is set up how there's some priorities and some secondary priorities. You know, whether that be 5 in each category, what we think in the next, the short time frame, a year or two. That's what we get set up. That's my,
Yeah.
Okay.
so we look at a roadmap for,
Yeah.
a time frame.
Goals.
Roadmap is a good term. All right. Anything else that we want to specifically direct him to?
Well, I just looked at the agenda that we had the last time, and, you know, a lot of those things, we've kind of taken care of, the DOT thing. I mean, we got some things that we're gonna have to work through on that. But that's, you know, but I think that's important. The Mallard View thing, I think, is kind of on a roll, already, and just like other things here. I think the most important things is the jail. And I think it's very important. I think it's a large impact decision. And I just think it's, you know, I think in time, it's going to have to be some very, very good discussion on this. And whether this is the time or not, I don't know, but, you know, it being if we want to be a regional courthouse here, you know, I think it's important that we address that issue with the jail. And, you know, I think there's the Mallard View thing, when that came up, you know, Mark had some questions about the farm ground. And it's probably not a bad time to maybe have that debate, whether or not that farm ground should be sold.
Okay. All right.
Those are the things that I think are important.
All right. Mark, do you have any comment?
Not really. No, I think it pretty well covers it.
All right, I think, in addition to what you guys said, is, I know right at the end of that, we had quite a bit of discussion about benefits and personnel things, how they'd like that better explained and laid out. And I think some of that's been done. In fact, last week, we all just got a letter explaining what our different benefits are and things. So that's another thing I think we should touch on. I'm not in favor of hiring another person to do that, but I think we touched on a lot of things that we think we should make sure get done and who's gonna do it type thing. Okay, all right, I'll pass that on to Rick, and we'll see y'all on Thursday there at that meeting. That's all I have for committee reports, and this week, Tuesday I have RSVP and foster grandparents. Wednesday, I have 2 meetings with Rolling Hills. One is with our HIPAA guy, who's gonna have a training for the board members on HIPAA. Then we're gonna have a regular board meeting also on Wednesday, and then Thursday, this county strategic plan. Okay. Courtney, is there anything else we need to cover, or do you have anything for the board? What do you have for next week's agenda?
The RFP discussion.
Okay. All right, very good.
Well, and I hope to have some answers on what we need to keep out of the.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, any comments from those in attendance? I have no other business. If there's no other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second that.